It is Bass Fishing Hall of Fame week, and we have a double dose of goodness. First, we are joined by Mike McKinnis, the visionary, the mastermind behind Bass Live and everything Bassmaster TV. He never does podcasts, but he does one this week. But that's not all. We are also joined by a gentleman who's won over $4 million casting for bass. He's a former Classic champion. He's a former Angler of the Year. He just won an MLF event just a few months ago. The one and only Skeet Reese also joins the program. Both of them get inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame this week. But before they do that, they join me on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 180th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you are in the world, life is treating you well. This is a very big week. Very, very big week in bass fishing. It's the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame induction week, where our 5 inductees and the who's who of the bass fishing world travel to Springfield, Missouri, and go to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, which is housed in the wonders of wildlife, something you definitely need to check out. But it's always an exciting week, and this year's class is incredible. Of course, Mark Zona going in. We had him on the show a few weeks ago. Mike McKinnis and Skeet Reese, both of them going to be on this week's show. Alfred Williams, I need to talk to Alfred about doing a show because he would be a great person to talk to. And then, of course, Fred Arbogast, who is no longer with us. An incredible induction class. And I want to thank each and every one of them for everything they've done. To get in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, you have to have impacted the sport, helped build the sport, have helped create the sport, and given to the sport. And all of these inductees are very, very worthy of being in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. It is something that I definitely want to touch on. We're going to celebrate those 5 incredible people, and they're going to thank their families. But I think publicly, I need to thank the families, because if you have given so much to the sport, the people who have kind of lost some is your family and the people that supported you, who had your back. So congratulations, not just to the inductees, but to the families connected with these incredible inductees, because you gave a lot to grow this sport, and we all thank you. Now, our first guest really, really shocks me. I can't believe that I convinced him to do this. He just doesn't do these kind of things. He's my boss, but he is also one of my best friends on earth, Mike McKinnis. He is the visionary that said to me, Tommy, and Zona at one time, hey, we're going to do Bass Live. It's going to be live all day. And guess what? We're going to do it at the Classic. And we all said, you're nuts. It'll never work. Well, clearly he was right. We were wrong. And that is just one of the many occurrences where that has happened in my life and our lives. And this sport is richer because of what Mike McKinnis has given. And let's be honest, his father is Jerry McKinnis, the amazing Jerry McKinnis. With everything Jerry McKinnis has accomplished, you got to think to yourself, it's not the easiest thing in the world to be Jerry McKinnis' son, and especially if you choose to work in the same industry. Well, sadly, Jerry is no longer with us. But if he was, I'm pretty sure he'd have a giant smile on his face, because what Mike McKinnis has given to this sport in a totally different way than Jerry. Jerry was in front of the camera. Mike, behind the camera, has steered the direction of not just bass, but the direction of this sport, the direction that this sport is consumed. And it isn't just through Bass Live. He's done a lot of different stuff in this sport, and a lot of the stuff that we all love is because of Mike McKinnis. And I love him for opening up and agreeing to come on this podcast. I didn't even know if he's ever listened to a podcast, to be honest. I don't know that he's a podcast listener, but he's now a podcast guest. The one and only Mike McKinnis. Mike McKinnis, I'm still amazed that somehow I convinced you to do this. The Wizard of Oz is coming out from behind the curtain.
I wouldn't do it if it wasn't you.
How?
You know me, nobody. I can already see your fans turning off the stream now. Nobody wants to hear me. That's why I'm behind the camera.
No, that is not true. That is not true. And this is just like a warm up of what you're going to deal with when the official induction happens. Like, how nervous are you about? I'll say tomorrow because when this airs, it'll be tomorrow, but it's next week right now. But how nervous are you about that moment of being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
A lot, and really because I found out that most everybody's coming here from the office there, and I mean, yeah, that actually will make me feel good in front of that crowd. But I'm nervous for them. To me, this honor is in honor of them and you and the list of people that I need to thank to even be considered to be in that Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, I think that's the way you got to think. I mean, unless you're a douchebag and you're just like, well, we're all here because of this. Which
we're here because of me. No, this is a group. This is a group win. I really believe that. I mean, when I think about it, man, I'm the luckiest guy in in this building and one of in the sport. Part of that is nepotism. I mean, let's just cut right to it. But I also didn't get it handed to me. I worked hard with these people that we're talking about. We all did. I mean, every once in a while, we'll stop and we'll go, gosh, in 2005, we were doing 20 bass events and 7 redfish events and 13 Spanish fly shows and 7 fishing hole, all this list. And we go, how did we do that? I mean, because we're a small company. Still, we had a small group. We still do today. And I don't know how we did it, but we did do a lot, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
One thing that I was talking to, I didn't realize you literally started in the mailroom.
Well, I say that, but yeah, I mean, of course, JM had been going for years,
Yeah.
and all that was Jerry McKinnis and Jim Mannion, and they were doing the fishing hole. And it wasn't until ESPN came along and Jerry, Dad, began reaching out and doing other things. And then I came to work here in 1990, and they were just scratching the surface on ESPN Outdoors. They were just scratching the surface on Steel Timber Sports. The fishing hole was going, and a few other odd things. And so I was just, and they had a couple of good linear editors. There wasn't software-based nonlinear editing back then. It was all tape to tape.
Yeah.
And they had a couple really good editors that they were flying in from Dallas and Pittsburgh. And I just was a grunt and learned from those guys and got tapes and put tapes in and, did some audio and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I say I was in the mailroom, but I was basically a grunt, just learning everything about, production.
So you didn't go to school for it. It's something you learned on the job type.
No, it's yeah. So as you know, I played in a band.
Yeah.
In a failed band that you like to joke with me about. Yeah, and then met my wonderful wife. Decided it was time to get serious, and got a job offer from Dad and came to work here. So I was here for about 6 months, and I was going to go to Full Sail, which is a production school in Orlando.
Okay.
I was working here for a few months. I was going to go down there for probably a year and really tool up. And literally, I mean, I had everything set up to go, and 2 weeks before I was going, one of these editors that I was talking about couldn't be here. And they were working on this fitness show for ESPN. I guess it would have been ESPN at that time. And they had nobody to edit. And so it was either throw me to the fire um, or I go off to school. And so I canceled the school thing and edited that show under some other producers who were producing that show. And so I literally, I mean, in the fire, I cut a show and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to make a show 22 minutes and 38 seconds. It was like, to me at the time, that was like, oh my God, how do I do that? But now I know it's pretty simple. You just clip and trim and fix.
So let's go back before you started that job. What was your childhood dream job? Did you have one of those growing up? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be this. What was it for you?
Not hardcore. Older brother played music. I kind of got into that locally here in Arkansas. He went to school in Nashville, and I followed him to Nashville, and we did some music there at Belmont and in Nashville. Didn't get a whole lot going, and then came back here, and I got in a band, and this is where I really started really enjoying music. I got in a band. It was kind of an alternative college rock band, original band. We were doing original music, and we started traveling. We played at all the Southeastern Conference schools. We spent a lot of time playing in Kansas City, which is why I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan now. But really, for I'd say solid 5 years, I mean, we were gone every week, 4 or 5 days a week, playing every night, and it was a great. I mean, it was a great learning experience in a lot of ways.
I don't know if you'll admit this, but it sounds like to me like it was a party band. I mean, if you were touring colleges, I mean, there was good times had.
Well, it was. It was a party band, but I think we were good. There's two types of bands that would play around. There's cover bands, which that's not what we were. We were an original band. So, and we had a lot of people that wanted us, that hired us, that came to see us because of our music, and that feels good when you're out playing music. And I was not writing the music. I was not the lead singer or anything. I played bass, but I was with some guys who were special at what they did, and so it was a grand time. We did have fun. There's no question about it. But there came a point in the late '80s where it was, we had been doing it for, like I said, 5 years, and we got close. We got close to some record deals and that kind of stuff, but we just didn't get over the hump, and that's a tough business. And that's when Dad came along and said, "Hey, you want to go to work? Let's go."
So did you ever have, like, when I look at everything you've put together, I mean, obviously being in a band, you're a creative person from day one. You're creating a different media, obviously, but did you ever, like, when did you have the moment where you're like, I want to be visually creative, I want to get into this? Or was it literally just, my dad got me a job, I need to do some stuff?
No, it did happen organically. But quickly. Being in a band and music and all that kind of stuff was how I could quickly sit down at the audio board in the edit suite and run audio. I could immediately do that. I understood that process. And then when you start watching, shows be put together, and it started with the Fishing Hole, watching those shows be put together, and that wasn't, his shows, especially back then, they were sort of slow, easy-going shows. That's what he wanted, and so they were kind of easy to put together. They were, these long shots, and he shot on film, and so that was beautiful. And he always had sit-down interviews with people in his shows and things like that. So it was all just sort of feeding into my head that this is cool, and I can do that. I can build stories with video and audio. And so it did happen pretty quickly that I, became interested in it. I say quickly, it was 3, 4, 5 years before it was the Spanish Fly was the first
Yeah.
show that was mine. Here you go, do this, and that's when I went to work on my own, putting something special together, I think.
Special. I mean, I don't think just you think. I mean, it's hands down. I don't think you'd find an argument. The greatest saltwater fishing show that's ever existed. I think, and I think that's unanimous throughout the fishing world. But as the co-founder and producer of that, like, how involved were you? Were you on, like, and how, before we even get in that, how did the Jose thing come together? Like, I mean, his
Well,
story's amazing, but how did it go from I'm going to be a guide to I'm going to host a show?
yeah. So everything I'm talking about here starts with Jerry McKinnis. The guy was an animal with um, trying to do new things and start new things and pushing to do new things, and then surrounding himself with people and going, here, you do this. Why don't you try to do this? And so I mean that's literally what happened with Spanish Fly. He was in the Keys doing a show for himself, and it was a slam tournament, and he got to fish with Jose. Jose was one of the guides, and it was just happenstance that he chose. Somebody said, "Oh, you ought to go with this guy. He's charismatic." So that's who he went with, and he met Jose and was immediately like, "Oh my God, this guy's terrific." And at the same time, Jose was wanting to do something on TV. Jose was a big Flip Palette
Yeah.
fan and Walker's K fan, and wanted to do something. He had like a handful of people, like Jerry McKinnis and like Mark Zona and like you, sort of had that fishing bug. But I want to do a show with this, and so he actually had done a pilot, and it was all in Spanish. It was called Odisea de Pesca, and he had a pilot he was trying to sell. He wanted to do a Spanish version, basically, of Walker's K. Um, and this was in 1995, actually mid 94. And ESPN2 was coming online in the next 6 months. And so they're talking to Jerry and going, we need some saltwater shows. We need a bass fishing tournament, which we'll get to that in a minute. We need some other outdoor shows because ESPN2 is coming online and we need content. So let's do a show. He calls up Jose. Then I flew down and met with Jose for him to feel us out and us to feel him out and decide if we want to go. And it was a go. And we went down and shot for 2 weeks. And at the time, ESPN2, when it started, ESPN2 Outdoors was not 30-minute shows. The idea was to do 5-minute segments and bounce from show to show to show back to Spanish Fly and do a couple other shows and then back to Spanish Fly. It was ahead of its time, really,
Yeah.
because it was little spoon feeds of shows and things from around the country in the outdoor world. That only lasted 1 year, and then it was back to 30-minute shows. It was too difficult, sales-wise and sponsor-wise, to organize that and keep everybody happy. So it did go back to 30-minute shows. But that's how it started. So we went down for 2 weeks. We shot 2 or 3 days shark fishing. We shot some mackerel fishing. We just did all the stuff that you can immediately do around the Keys there, and got a bunch of content, and we were off and running. And it was Jerry McKinnis that said, you should do orchestra music in his show. He's the one that said that. Yeah, why don't you do something different like that? And then I dug into our library and picked out bunch of those pieces of music, standard sort of symphony music that you've heard before, and put it to his world. And it was a hit at the time. It was part of him being special. But make no mistake, Jose was special and going somewhere, regardless of whether we got together or not, I think.
But I would imagine at the time, where Jose was and where you were. I mean, this is also your first show. This is your first baby. You put both you guys together, and that explains to me what it was. Did you and Jose gel like right away, or
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. He was a fun, just a fun dude. I mean, we became best friends, like I do with you, like I do with Zona, like I did with Dad. We were close. I mean, we were really close, and I was at the helm of that show for 9, 10 years before Tim Schick took it over and started producing and running it. But yes, to answer your question, we were really close and clicked um, in a way that that best friends do.
yeah? I I've always had this amazing obsession with Jose just because I've always looked at him like before I met you, before I was any connection to JM. I mean, I knew who Jose was, obviously, and I remember being at a Shimano event in the Keys, and I remember Jose coming. Like, we're all up at this bar on top of this hotel, and somebody says, "Yeah, Jose will be here shortly." And then, like, it was like a scene from Baywatch. He comes around the corner. He's got no shirt on. He's got a boat with 3 motors on it. His hair's just flowing, and it was just like, man, that dude. Like, I'm fishing in freezing cold conditions. That dude has everything figured out. What was Jose as put together as it seemed from the outside?
um, on the water, absolutely. I mean, there are a handful of people in that that are sort of dialed in on fishing on Earth, and he was one of them. I mean, but he also, like you said, not only was he a magnet to you and the Shimano gang, but if there were women in the aura, I mean, that dude attracted more more. Well, I'm going to get in trouble from Chrissy if I say too much here, but no, he was the real deal on the water. No kidding. I mean, had it all and knew it all and led it all. He was a leader of all that. I mean, he was meeting with Shimano and telling them what to build and how to build it and so on. At that time, he was their lead. What do you call it? Sort of rep who's telling them how it works.
Yeah, an amazing impact, and obviously, as you mentioned, Chrissy has continued on. I mean, and I said that
Oh,
to her
terrific.
at ICAST. I said, after somebody passes, sadly, the first year or two, a lot of people will support it, but for it to be getting bigger and stronger as it is this many years later, I mean, that shows how amazing of a person Jose was, but also how amazing the job that Chrissy's done with that whole
Yeah,
foundation.
100%. She's doing a great job with that. They're doing great things. Not not to turn this into a commercial, but go check out the foundation, Jose Wejebe Foundation, and see what they're doing. They do great stuff and continued. And you're right. That's all Chrissy.
So, as you alluded to, ESPN, and I didn't know this, it was from ESPN, but ESPN wanted a a tournament show. And many people will be shocked to find out that that tournament show was not the Bassmasters.
It was the FLW, and that was kind of like us and Jose coming together. That was three things coming together there. It was ESPN wanting bass fishing tournament. It was Irwin Jacobs had just bought Ranger boats and wanted more than what he was getting out of Bassmaster, I think, and had his eye on Operation Bass. Um, and all those things came together. It was really a lot of conversation between Jerry McKinnis and Charlie Hoover, who was
Yeah.
president of Ranger Boats at that time. And Jerry was saying, we gotta get this tournament going for ESPN2, and it came together pretty quickly, really. I mean, I say that over a year's time or whatever, but it came together pretty quickly. And it was made for TV. It was the final day, cut into five cameras on each guy. That was the first time that you knew you were going to get to see what happened with the winner, regardless of who won. But all the years before, it was 2, maybe 3 cameras out there
Yeah.
with 100 guys fishing, and good luck getting the winner. And every once in a while, they might have gotten it with a few catches and that kind of thing, but not the full day of here's how the day unfolded. That was Jerry McKinnis, and that was groundbreaking.
I remember those shows even before I knew you guys, but I remember Tommy Sanders hanging out of a helicopter as boats are running through the Detroit River, and it changed the way tournaments were viewed. Those shows, but that
100%.
didn't last long.
Well, it lasted 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that's not very long. But so ESPN, are you alluding to ESPN buying Bass and the world changing? So ESPN buys Bass in 2001, and another group is producing Bass, and we're producing FLW, right?
Yep.
Well, our idea was, because ESPN said, we bought Bass, we want you guys to produce it. They came to us. They knew what we were doing with FLW and how good that was, and they wanted that for Bassmaster. So our idea was, great, we'll do both. We're gonna do both FLW and Bass, and that lasted about 2 minutes because Irwin Jacobs was not having that. He was upset, right or wrong. He was upset that ESPN had bought Bass, and ESPN was FLW's media partner, so he didn't want to be on the same network with them, and he was going to take FLW and go somewhere else. We seriously were going to do both, and we're going to do both on ESPN and make them, believe it or not, Jerry McKinnis had designs of those two somehow, some way competing against each other down the road. Not in the beginning, but there were thoughts of that as we were saying, let's produce both for ESPN. And Irwin just didn't want that. He wanted to take it somewhere else, so he did. And we kind of handed it off to a production company here in Little Rock, Dempsey, who took over production there. So that's what happened. And then then we took off on BASS.
See, a moment of total honesty. I got this timeline of your career, and I never, ever do notes or anything for any of these conversations. I read it wrong. That's why I said it didn't last long. When I read it initially, I thought it was like 1 year, and then you said 5 years, and I looked over it. I'm like, yeah, I didn't read that properly again. Story of my life.
Well, hey, 5 years is not very long when you're 61, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, that impact that was made is pretty incredible. And I think still, like, there's things that happen in those shows that are that would be state of the art today. You know what I mean? I get it. Drones took over for helicopters.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you were involved with two of the greatest. I mean, I look at that time, it was in wrestling, they have the wrestling wars when Ted Turner owned one and Vince McMahon owned the other. And you've got these two mega rich powers battling. But you, with ESPN's investment and with everything that Irwin Jacobs was doing, that was, I mean, an incredible time in the sport.
Yeah, 100%. Irwin was terrific, man. You're right. He wanted it to be great, and he put the money behind it to do that. I mean, helicopters and multiple cameras and multiple days and all that is not cheap. But it is what made the difference. He did it. ESPN did it. ESPN then came along and poured too much money into it, if you want to be honest, with everything, with production, with amount of events, with payouts, with all those things. They kind of overextended in a way, but they did something that, regardless of all that, they did do something for the sport of bat. They did elevate it by putting it in front of more and more people at that time. Cable was peaking during those early
Yeah.
years, and ESPN was peaking as far as subscribers and all that. And so they did, and they took the whole Saturday morning and had bass fishing and bass center and bass, what was Zona's
Loudmouth.
loudmouth bass and just bass fishing. You know, we always looked at it and thought, they could do it more economically, but it wasn't ours to do that with. We just did what, our responsibility was the Bassmaster Tour and Classic, and then the Elite Series when it started in '06.
So I have to imagine that was a crazy time behind the scenes, though, because all of a sudden now you have, I mean, where you guys were producing FLW stuff and you were dealing with Irwin, well, now you've got this media monster that is ESPN and a lot of different producers and different ideas coming at you, I would imagine.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun then, but there was a lot of challenges. As we know, bass fishing and the bass culture is special. And you don't just come into that culture, especially from above a big media company, and go, we're gonna show them how it's done here, which is what happened. There were a handful of producers that I don't care to work with anymore. um, but there were some great people there. There were some terrific people that knew and respected us, and ultimately helped get it all into our hands, even before the buyout of BASS from ESPN. There were a handful of people, in particular Dave Miller, who was there at ESPN. He came to me and said, "We want you to take this all over and get it out of our immediate hands of production." And we did. We were grateful for it. We continued doing everything that we were doing, but doing it without somebody over your shoulder with bad ideas is fun, more fun than the other.
I think that's the battle that nobody sees. And not that I'm not saying bad ideas, but like if you're a creative person like you, and you know me, I'm an idiot. I always say all my ideas don't have a budget connected to them, but you have these ideas, but you always have.
And by the way, your ideas don't come in until 10 minutes before we go live, and then it's like, hey, can we do this?
Well,
what? We're about to go live, Dave.
I have I tend to think I have
and they're great ideas. Can you just back them up a little bit on the timeline?
No, I was thinking of other stuff the week before, obviously. I trust me, it frustrates me. I always say I've got a lazy brain where I'm like, I try to think of things and I'm like, yeah, I got nothing. And then right before the moment where I'm like, it's too late to come up with anything, I'm like, wait a second. So speaking of coming up with things, talk to me about the Elite Series. Bass was what it was and it was doing fine, but there was the big push to make the Elite Series, which, I mean, I think people forget what that did. I mean, that not just made tournaments bigger, but anglers all had wraps. Anglers had their name on the back of the jersey. I remember actually reading an article, somebody saying how ridiculous it is that pro anglers think they should have their name in the back of their jersey. Now you don't see a jersey that doesn't have somebody's name on the back of it?
Well, I mean, that was just a desire to, you know, especially then, bass was a young sport. And so as a league, looking at 30, 35 years compared to 75 to 150 for other sports, even NASCAR long before that. But looking at a sport like NASCAR and going, we got to tap into some of that and figure out how to. It's all about trying to figure out how to get more revenue into the sport and into the anglers' hands and into everything, into production, into all of it. So, I mean, the Elite Series, and again, the Elite Series was a lot of Jerry McKinnis. It started with the E50s, actually a couple of years before the Elite Series, and his idea with that was to try to get the field smaller, and that's what that was: get the field smaller, and have more stars. Always in the spirit of we got to create stars to grow this sport. That was his main mantra with bass fishing is we have to create stars in order to grow this sport. And I think we did during that time from '01 and even through the beginning of the Elite Series. But then the Elite Series started in '06 and lined out. I can't remember. It's kind of fluctuated between how many events we've done. But it was the Elite Series. I think it was 10 events.
Yeah.
And then we had the majors. That was 3 events on top of that. Just a lot of tournaments. Those majors were no entry fee. Man, those were, ask any elite angler from that time, they go, oh, that's the greatest time there was, no entry fee majors, but they weren't able to bring the revenue in to match that, was the shame of it all. The idea was right, but they couldn't sell it correctly.
Yeah, they were paying $250,000 for first place in those majors. I remember. So you had all those events and nighttime weigh-ins and crazy things that happened at the E50s. Yeah, no, it was very, very cool time. So then somewhere along the way, Jerry McKinnis decides I'm going to retire. I'm just going to, I've done enough. I'm going to retire. But then somehow Bass pulled him out of retirement when the opportunity to buy Bass came, because ESPN, I remember a time, and I think a lot of people forget this, but I remember a time when anglers were crapping their pants saying, hey, ESPN might just shut down Bass and we got nowhere to go.
Yeah. First of all, Bass is too strong of a brand to ever be even then. I can see people thinking that, but too big of a brand to be shut down. But yeah, Dad had sort of, Zona had came along and just blew up with his talent, which, initially Dad was like, uh-oh, what have we gotten into with this guy, And then after a little bit of time, he's like, man, we got something special here. So he was able to, and he didn't think he was good on the show anymore, and he didn't want to be commentator on bass shows. And so he did retire from that and retired from doing the fishing hole and was just sort of pulling back on some things. And then he gets a call from George Bodenheimer, who was head of ESPN at the time, and says, we want to unload Bass, and I've got another guy who's a friend of mine, and you two guys are the two I would trust for taking this. And that was Don Logan, who had just retired from Time Warner, and Dad, who was in his position, and they went and had a meeting, and then we were off and running, spent the next, 3 or 4 or 5 months negotiating that deal, which was, I got to go to all those meetings. I'm just like, I get to sit in the boardroom at ESPN with George Bodenheimer, who's the head of ESPN, Don Logan, who just left as head of Time Warner Inc., and just an incredible person. And then Dad and a handful of legal people, and we sat in there, and that's when I started learning how the big boys operate. It was incredible to get to see that, be a part of that, and even be allowed to make decisions in things that were happening there. It was terrific. So we took it off of Bass's hands and off and running with owning it, and that was pretty scary because it was not in good shape. Um, Financially and all that kind of stuff. So it was, I mean, we had to go to work and figure it out. All the while running tournaments, which could quite possibly be the hardest thing to do on earth, is running tournaments and keeping all the constituents. Um, I don't want to say happy, but able to do what they're doing. Sponsors, anglers, production, tournament, running it, all that kind of stuff is really difficult. So that's what we had in our hands now. Oh my gosh, here we go.
It, I think you still hear people say, well, how has the sport regressed? You'll say the sport's regressed. They were fishing for $250,000. They had no entries. But I've always thought the sport's still trying to recover from that time because, I mean, ESPN got out, but not because they didn't like it, because financially it couldn't support what they were doing.
Right, 100%. Um, I mean, that is the bottom line. That's why they got out of it. Um, and they only, you think about ESPN and they do Monday Night Football and they do the X Games and they do, all of the sports that they do, they're all in with production, especially back then. This was before studio
Yeah.
shows absolutely took over the air. But they only knew one way to go with the Bassmaster Classic, and that was having this production truck here for the weigh-in, and this production truck here for loudmouth, and this production truck here for our live coverage, and this. Next thing you know, you got 150, 200 people, 3 or 4, 5 production trucks. It just cost a lot of money. It was too much. Um, you think about what we do, the same thing we're doing now, and I'm sure we'll get into live. It is a little bit different, but we have our little JM production truck that we're doing Bassmaster Live on Fox broadcast with, and we have another production truck that we're doing the weigh-ins out of an arena with. That when we do have somebody from Fox come along and pop in our truck, and they're like, "You guys are doing that out of this truck with this many people? Oh my God!" Because they're used to having a row of 4 trucks and multiple people, just a truck to do graphics, you know. And we've got Bruce Cash sitting on the back bench doing all the graphics. So, but that's the way it has to be done, to work. That's where we are right now. Um, I think and hope that it's going to keep going, and it needs to. It needs to for everybody, for the anglers, just for production to continue to be robust. But it is where it is right now because that's what works at this moment.
Well, so things are going good according to this timeline. I mean, Zona shows out there. Things are going good. And then you decided, and I don't know where the decision, but I can just tell you from a host standpoint. And I joked with you a couple weeks ago about a picture of me, Tommy, and Zona standing behind the live desk the day before Bass Live debuted at the Bassmaster Classic, and all of us being like, "This is never going to work." I mean, you tested it. I remember the test they did with Walker. I think it was David Walker, maybe Randy Howell on a river, and it kept cutting out
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But you were the one who said to us, "Oh, we're good. We're good." And it literally changed the face of fishing. And I know you downplay it, Mike, but that I always explain to people that's fantasy land stuff. Like only a few years before, we're driving around a vehicle and being like, could you imagine a day where there was real live bass fishing? Well, you and your team made that happen.
Yep. Well, I back up a little bit, and first of all, I, I always get a chuckle when I hear another league or another group or another website that said they invented live bass fishing. See, I'm laughing right now because of it. First of all, AT&T and Verizon and Teradek and LiveView, they invented live coverage. Nobody invented live coverage in bass fishing. But Howard Downs in this building, long before we went live in 2015, I'm talking long before, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before, was dabbling with having a laptop out on a boat linked to this device with a cable to this device with a cable into a camera, and we're maybe seeing some live footage come back from a redfish event or a bass event or just a test that we're doing. That stuff was going on the same time that those companies were building the real products that we're using right now. So, we were fighting to do that all along, and having fun with it. Howard was having fun with trying to figure that out. It just happened that about 2014, those devices really started becoming available to use. So all that work that Howard did was useless. We didn't need that anymore. We got these devices now. But even then, the tech was not strong. Cell service was not as near as strong then as it is today. But then you're right. We did a test with Randy Howell and whoever it was I think it was on the Tennessee River.
I think it was Walker, wasn't
That
it?
worked. Yeah, it was Walker. And it worked okay. But you know me, I was going, it's gonna work, guys. We can do it. I learned that from the best, to just go and do it, and it'll work itself out. And we did. I mean, that classic. I've heard you tell me where you were when that first fish was caught. I was in our little truck, and the half a dozen or the dozen people that were in that truck, everybody just stopped what they were doing while Casey Ashley, who was drop shotting, hooked up a fish with Rick Mason, who's not with us anymore, was running camera, and we were all sitting in the truck, and you were in your car with Kerry Barrett driving back from the takeoff, and you probably pulled over, and we all stopped and watched that fish be caught. And that was, there were maybe somebody FaceTime a live catch from their friend to this, or there was a website that saw a lot with a tournament bass fish. That was the first ever to go to the masses, and it was on Bassmaster.com, and we were cheering in the truck, and just, it works. Let's go,
It worked, but it felt like sometimes we were running on duct tape, though. Like, I mean, you look at how many cameras are out there now, and how much footage you get back. Like, I'll have people say, why don't you run around town and do some of the crazy stuff you do? I'm like, because we have cameras that work. That was literally the only reason you guys would let me go crazy for 10, 15 minutes, because we had no, like,
we didn't have any
I remember
cameras.
hearing, Stretch Mercer, we have no cameras. We have no cameras, Stretch.
That's true. I mean, we weren't doing, I don't think we were doing 10 or 12 cameras in. I think we were doing 6.
Yeah.
5 or 6. And so of those 5 or 6, 1 or 2 of them was maybe working at times. But I mean, it just kept getting, every year, every tournament kept getting better and better. Again, cell service got better and better, and all the equipment got better, and here we are now. It's unusual. We go to an event and we don't have at least 8 cameras all the time, pristine HD footage coming in,
Do you miss the edited show at all? Like it changed everything.
I I think it's and you and I have had this conversation. You've brought it up. I think it's um, not a shame, but it's too bad that, with those shows before live, with those shows, yes, we had the winner covered and in second place and third place. We had them all covered, and then we would come home and a half a dozen of us would lock ourselves at our edit machine for 4 straight days. I'm not kidding. I mean, they were 16 to 20-hour days for 4 days to turn the show around, and then the show would air on Saturday, and so the event ends on Sunday. Everybody sees who won, and they get the stories online and all that, and then you get to settle in the next Saturday morning and see what happened. And we were able to, it's not a better product than live, but it's condensed to the moments.
Yeah.
So you're able to tell the story and build up in a short 45 minutes. That's all those shows were. They were 45 minutes of content. Build up from day one to day two and our job was to make stars out of these guys. We got that from ESPN. We got that from Jerry McKinnis. And so that's what it's still our mantra today, but that's what we wanted to do. And so we just went through the footage, and then we'd all come back together with this person edited the winner, this person edited second, this person edited third, and so on. And then we would see, well, this is going to be most of the show. It might have been second place because of what the guy did. So he might have a little bit more time in the show, but it was more important to show the fans that than the first place guy, because it was easier and quicker and not as, it didn't deserve it that much of the show. So it had nothing to do with the anglers. And we've gone through years of anglers thinking that we're handpicking, and, we went through the years of Iconelli just constantly showing up in the shows. If you go look at the leaderboard, he was constantly showing up in the top 5. So what are you going to do? But man, if it was compelling and needed to be seen, it went in the show. That's it.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with anything else.
It's the same thing on live. I mean, you hear that all the time. Oh, they're not putting so-and-so on because they don't like them. No, we're not putting so-and-so on because we can't get a signal. Like I've been in that trailer and people are screaming, like, how can we get, like, I mean, if there's no, trust me, as a producer, you want to use as much footage as possible.
Yeah, especially if there are catches happening. I mean, that's the worst, is a guy runs up a creek and right off the bat catches 16 pounds and charges to the lead, and we got no cell service up there and we can't do anything about it. We know we're not going to see it till the next day when that footage comes back. We're able to get it in the system, and then, hey, let's take a look back at what happened yesterday with so-and-so.
The worst was probably the Jason Christie show when he won in Bull Shoals. And that was the ended show, obviously, at that time.
Yeah,
but
we did a reenactment on that show.
Whose idea was the reenactment?
It was a combination of, Lipke and by the way, let's talk about, because the editing of those shows, I mean, we were doing that from 96 when we started on FLW until live in 2015. Those were edited shows. That's a lot of years of edited shows. And people like David Lipke and J.P. Bodiak and Middleton, and they were telling those stories. I was in there too, but those guys have the desire and the culture to make stars of these guys. They understood that, so they knew what to do and how to do it. You've watched more content edited posted show content from David Lipke in bass fishing than anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Whether it's open teases at the arena, any feature you see in bass, and Lipke and JP and Middleton, all those guys, they're the ones that cut that and make it exciting. So little side tangent there for you.
One of the things that amazed me when I first started and still amazes me to this day, like JM, the production company JM has a culture. It is a weird, like you don't see it everywhere where it's just, it's going to get done. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like when I look at, I mean, Tommy Sanders, you go to an event, when Tommy Sanders would go to events and he'd be out there winding up cable, after the event. But it's like kind of, that's the whole mantra, JM. It's kind of all in. And for a company to have that and for that to continue as long as it has, it truly is amazing. Like anybody that's ever showed up that isn't all in doesn't last, it seems.
Yep. I mean, yeah, we're just not we're not a what's my title company. Um, and especially those posted show years, all those years I just talked about, we were going to all those events. We were at every one of those events. And so it was all for one for all, in the field. And then when we got back here, it was, I mean, we were all hands on deck until it was done. Um, all the while with all those other shows going on at the same time. We were producing ESPN Outdoors at that time through that whole time, which was Tommy Sanders bouncing around the country doing wraparounds between all these shows. So I mean, again, that's where we always like, how did we pull that off? And a lot of that was we would go do an FLW event in Whereversville, and Tommy and David Healy and Kerry Barrett and Wes Miller would take off and run up to the Smoky Mountains to do wraparounds for a couple days and then come back in time for a couple days of the bass event. And or we'd be at a lumberjack event in Hayward, Wisconsin, and they'd run off to Somewheresville to do wraparounds, come back, we'd cover a lumberjack event, fly home and, and get after it cutting shows. Or, Spanish Fly. I mean, there were a lot of times where Tommy would go to those shoots and spin off and go do wraparounds nearby, or even with Jose at times, that kind of stuff.
So you were one of the masterminds that visualized live before it happened. And and your staff around you, me, Tommy, and Zona, both all of us said, no, it'll never happen. Not possible. Where do you think it all goes 10 years from now?
All that'll continue to just get better and better. I mean, nowadays, more drones, more coverage. Nowadays, I mean, we've got live drone easily all the time, at least with one angler, and at the Classic, 2 or 3 anglers, and that'll grow to more anglers. So there's that. That's kind of the easy answer. I mean, obviously we are in some growing pains right now with fishing and technology and how the sport is consumed. That we don't know what the answer is going to be on all that. I'm a don't get too high and don't get too low kind of person. I don't think this is the end of bass fishing, and I don't think it's going to knock the bass fishing earth off its axis. I think we got years of growing pains to go through this to figure out how anglers handle it, how we handle it from production, how fish handle it from how they start reacting and adapting. All that kind of stuff is going to take some time. So I didn't give you no answer there on what do I see in the future there, Mercer, but Um, you hear people, oh, well, let's put cameras in lures and stuff like that. Uh, you know, maybe down the road it's possible. Not soon. Not soon. That's not something that's coming soon, in my opinion. But forward facing, it's funny. Um, Again, we sit in the truck, and and I agree, when an angler is fishing, hardcore fishing his forward facing sonar, and we're not seeing the screen, it's pretty boring. It's pretty hard to just sit at him, especially if it's an angler that won't talk, explain what he's doing, sort of verbalize in an entertaining way. It's extremely boring. However, when we flip the two box up and we've got the sonar on the screen, and you see the lure drop, and you see 4 or 5 smallmouth come up and start chasing that lure, I watch our talent in the studio. I hear all our people in the truck, and everybody's just like, "Oh, there it is! Oh, he's coming! Here it comes!" And I equate that to I equate it to golf a lot. I don't play golf, don't have a desire to play golf, but I will lay on the couch and watch that ball hit the green and roll towards the hole all day long if I've got nothing to do. Um, and when we've got the screens and we've got good coverage, I think people will watch that too. I'm not going to get into the argument of whether it's, the right thing to do, because I get it. I get the guys who had to learn it without that. That they're different and special anglers, and they are the pioneers. But hey, we're getting to be a young sport, whether we like it or not. We're getting to be more like leagues that are 100 years old and 150 years old, and it's a young man's becoming a young man's sport. And we're creating that. High school and college, we're creating more anglers who want to do it. And they're coming into the game, and there's technology. Well, what do you want them to do? That's that's the hand that they are, given. So that's what they're dealing with. So we're going through some growing pains with all that, and we got some years for it all to check out and figure out where it's going to be. But I don't think it's. I think it's good. I think it's going to be. It will get figured out, and it will continue to be special, and the Bass brand will continue to be incredible, and the Bassmaster Classic will always be the Bassmaster Classic. So I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic than a lot of stuff I hear on the peripheral.
How did you avoid I would feel if I was in your job, my instant reaction would be like, ban it. Just because, it never, me and you talked about it a few weeks ago, that Smith tournament this past year, how many times we looked at Steve Kennedy and those wolf packing fish. And I get it is exciting to see the bait drop. It's educational, everything. But my initial thought is it's never going to be an 8-pounder hitting a frog. Like,
Yeah.
how did you?
Well, again, I don't think that's just going to go away. Did you watch the Open last weekend?
Yeah.
They weren't 8-pounders, but it was a whole lot of topwater biting going on, and Bass has to work really hard at the schedule. They do, and that is, of all the things that are hard about running tournaments, that's one of the hardest. Um, Thanks to Eric Lopez for doing that work, but it's tough. There's so many reasons to be somewhere at the right time and so on, and it's hard to make it all work. But it has to be worked out really hard to put us in position to be in those waters at that time. And again, I think I think it's going to take time, but I think fish will adapt and all those things, schedule and adapting fish and adapting anglers and all that kind of stuff is going to keep us from just. I mean, I hope so. I agree with everybody. If it just turns out to all we're doing is forward-facing sonar in the middle of a lake, every lake, then yeah, we gotta look at that. But I am for working harder, going the other direction, and trying to figure out ways to schedule and make it the other way. I'm not. I am not on the committee. I'm way too. I'm too busy to be on the committee. Don't want to be on the committee.
Or too smart, whatever way you look at it.
Yeah. And that committee could have been made 10 different ways with 50 different people, and it still would have came out a bit of a mess. I just, you can't. I don't think you can point fingers and think that you have the right answer. People like to do on social media and online. They think they have the answer to most things. But I've seen it all happen. I've seen how difficult it is to run tournaments, to raise money, to show the right anglers at the right time on camera, all those kind of things. I just know that it's not easy. And everybody's doing the best that they can to do what's right. And I support Chase, and that's Chase's decision. And I'm in a lot of meetings with Chase, and he cares about his decision. He doesn't know that or think that he's just made the right decision and that's how it's going to be. He puts a lot of thinking into it all, and knows that he's made a decision and that down the road it could change again and again and again, and he would do it for all the right reasons. And so, I'm with him on that.
And as much as people like to point fingers and say things with certainty, I mean, I agree with you. It's going to change. Like, regardless of whether it is part of the sport, it isn't part of the sport, it's going to continually evolve. It's going to continually change. And it always has. But one thing that's also changing, and I didn't read the press release, I'd be a lot better at my job, but the Fox relationship continues to grow, and it's going to grow again this year, correct?
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, what a partner they are for us at the right time. And, it's COVID made that possible for us. I mean, COVID hits and there are 0 live sports going on, and ESPN comes to us and says, "Hey, can we put all your live programming on our network? We've got nothing." and we worked that out and did it, and we just did it for the 1 year, and then everything started relaxing, and ESPN was getting out of it, and Chase and the gang got with Fox Sports, got in the room. Fox Sports saw what we did, liked it. This was back in late 2020, and we did that deal with Fox for 4 years, from 2021 to today. And then yesterday, the press release was put out that we've re-upped with Fox, and we've added quite a bit more Fox broadcast hours. They love what we're doing. We continue to be in the right place. I say this all the time because I've been through a lot of iterations with some of those ESPN producers and all that go, let's be in prime time, or let's try, all that kind of. We're in the right place Saturday and Sunday morning up, into the afternoon is good too, but that's our place for bass fishing. We don't want to be in prime time up against football and Survivor and stuff like that. That's not our place. We're in the right place on the weekends, mornings through the afternoon. And Fox likes what we're doing. They're giving us more broadcast hours, which is terrific. You know, we started off just having FS1 as our partner, who are fantastic, by the way. And early on, and then we added some Fox broadcast hours for the Classic, you know, one day in the morning. And then last year we got 3 hours in the afternoon. Now we're going to have 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, on Fox broadcast. That's reaching a lot of people. That's great for our anglers. That's great for our sponsors. It's great for the brand. It's just terrific. So all that is, man, did we meet them at the right time, and we're able to do live the way we're doing it now at the right time, because it's got to be good. They wouldn't want it if it wasn't well produced.
Do you have a proudest moment throughout your career? Is there any, or is that tough to do?
I'm proud of the Spanish Fly. I'm just proud of all the stuff that we've done, because it's just mountains of stuff to look back on and go, wow, we did a lot here. Yeah, and all the moments you've talked about. Live's probably top of the food chain, making that happen, and knowing that it turned into what it is today.
How much pressure did you feel throughout your career being Jerry McKinnis' son? I mean, that's not an easy act to follow.
You know, not much. And because of him, you know, I got a handful of close friends. You and Jose and Zona and Tommy Sanders, Steve Bowman here, that I spend a lot of time with. And Jerry McKinnis is one of those guys. We worked really hard together, and he didn't treat me as his underling or his son or anything like that. He treated me as, you know, what he just with respect and able to do things. But when we flipped the switch off, like he and I would talk Cardinal baseball and Razorback basketball and, you know, whatever, and enjoyed it. You know, we were close friends. So I don't know. I guess maybe that kept pressure off of me. I do feel more pressure about next week's Hall of Fame with that than at any other time, because, you know, I'm like, well, why would I be going into the Hall of Fame? That doesn't make any sense. That's a place for people like Jerry McKinnis and Rick Clunn and Bill Dance, Johnny Morris, things like that. What I don't deserve to be in there, but okay. So I don't know. No is the answer. He made me feel responsible for all this stuff and not pressured in any way.
Well, you're going into the Hall of Fame with one of your close friends, obviously, Mark Zona.
Oh, man.
And you're going to see a white trash production here. I'm much different than you. But I got Mark Zona to send me a message for you, because he's much too busy to join us live, obviously. But I'll just play that for you now.
I bet he's fishing somewhere.
Real quick, congratulations on a couple things. Number one, on doing your first podcast. I know you love them. Number two, you are one of the most deserving people ever in the industry.
Oh, no, I screwed it up. Hold on. Sorry. Told you it was.
I know you love them. Number two, you are one of the most deserving people ever in the industry for what you have done for tournaments and production. To work with you for 20 years and get inducted side by side, one of the highlights of my career, working right next to you. I truly mean that. You're a badass. All I got left is go Chiefs and let's go. All right, in true jam fashion, take two. Energy up, guys. Come on, guys. Energy up. Seriously, bring it, guys. Mike, yeah, two things. Energy is up. Congrats on your first podcast. Number two, congrats on actually getting inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. I think I forgot that on the last take, and that was the point of the damn video. It has been an honor working next to you. You are, and I've told you this, and I know you hate it, probably the most deserving person ever to be in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame for what you've done for tournament production, and to work next to you for 20 years and get inducted with you. One of the highlights of my life. I love you. Go Chiefs, and let's go. No, I nailed that one, dude. I nailed that shit.
I'm glad you rolled both of them. I love that. Yeah. I mean, first of all, Tommy Sanders and Mark Zona. You know this, I'm a big sports fan, and I love Joe Buck and Jim Nance and Tony Romo and all the special ones. But how lucky am I to have those two guys sitting out front and center for all the years that I had. I mean, those two guys, you know, they could do any sport and be good, be as good as those guys. But we got lucky to have them in our sport. And talk about raising the bar and holding it high for 20 years. They were the face of our sport. And man, Zona and I we say have coffee together. It's on the phone. I mean, there were periods where it was daily, weekly, every week, every month, every year for years. Hate to see him. Hate to, but I'm happy for him. Hate to see him pull back from the elites. I have a sneaky suspicion we're gonna pull him into a little something, maybe a little classic time. You never know. We'll wrangle him in. But man, again, when I said at the very beginning of this podcast, I'm one of the luckiest people. I mean, to get to sit in the truck and direct those two guys. That's special.
I totally agree. And I know you don't like doing these kind of things, Mike, and I appreciate you doing it. But
I love doing it with you, Dave. I love doing it with you.
Oh, you're going to be a weekly guest. Awesome. Good to hear. No, I think I feel the exact same way about Tommy and Zona, but I think that, and I think the entire industry does. But I think that Tommy and Zona did it with the right partner, and you are. I mean, I'm going to read some Mark Zona words to finish this off, because I thought when he sent me this text, after he sent me the text, he said, "Can you send me a video saying that?" And he didn't say it at all. But the one thing that he said, which isn't shocking, his response last night we were texting. He said, "I thought about this a lot. Mike is the steady ship in the roughest seas. The worse things get, the more steady he is. He keeps us all together." So thank you, Mike McKinnis.
I do my best.
Bass Fishing Hall of Famer Mike McKinnis. That's all I got. That's the best way to get out of this, Mike. It'll be awkward any other way.
Thanks for having me. I'll do it again, Dave. I'll do it again.
All right.
One of these days we'll do it and we'll really drop the hammer on the dirt. So.
Well, there were so many things that I wanted to talk to you about, but then I'm like, he's going in the Hall of Fame. We really need to kind of look at them. But I mean, we can talk about some stuff.
Yep. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Maybe the Chiefs game.
Hey, let's go.
True story. And I'm sure I've told you this, but people need to learn this. Mark Zona literally thought I was a Chiefs fan when I first started working here just to get the job. Like a year later, me and you were going to Chiefs games. And he's like, "You're really a Chiefs fan?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "I just thought you said that to Mike just to get the job."
Nope, you're a true long-term fan like me. I've been through. I was through the 2012 2-14 season. I was there when Lynn Elliott missed 3 field goals in the playoffs against the Colts. But yeah, so long time of pain for me is finally redeemed.
It's a damn good time to be a Chiefs fan.
I mean, let's go.
Thank you, Mike McKinnis. I am still amazed that somehow I pulled that off. I convinced him to be part of this show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That is the amazing mind that thought up Bass Live. That is the amazing person that has brought so many incredible Bassmaster moments to your living room. It's because of amazing people like Mike McKinnis and all of his amazing team that he continued to put the credit to, and that's just the person that he is. And it is a damn good time to be a Chiefs fan. If you don't want to hear about the Chiefs, I'm sorry. If you're not a Chiefs fan, sorry. If you think they show Taylor too much, well, but just shake it off. You see what I did there? But that's not all. We have more. Now I'm joined by one of the most flamboyant, outgoing characters in this sport. With good reason. He is a 12-time tour level winner, a former classic champion, a former angler of the year, won an MLF event just a few months ago from Auburn, California, the one and only Skeet Reese. Skeet Reese, you're a freaking Bass Fishing Hall of Famer. Are you nervous?
Shit, yeah, I'm nervous. I'm terrified. I mean, I'm terrified that I'm not going to be able to get through my freaking speech. That's what I'm terrified of. It's just like, just being in a room with all our peers and everybody that's, impacted our sport and has built the sport to where, this game we play in is going to be in the room. And I'm talking to him like, oh, shit. So I'm nervous because you know me, I cry over anything. So how the hell I'm going to get through my speech without like just sobbing? I'm more worried about that than I am anything else. I'm like, nobody's going to understand what I'm saying. Oh, shit. Yeah.
Crying's acceptable. Just don't get like ugly. Don't blow bubbles out of your nose or anything like that.
Snot bubbles are awesome. I love snot bubbles.
Really? When did this love for snot bubbles start in your life?
They go, kind of like a bullfrog.
So let's go way back, Skeet, because we've been friends for a long time. Way back. Tell me about childhood, Skeet. What were you like in school?
Well, you had to go to school in order to know what it was like to be what you're like in school. Because school was not my jam. You talking about elementary school or middle school?
Wherever you want to go.
High school didn't exist. I didn't go to high school, so.
Well, let's go to the school you went to, elementary.
Right, so elementary school. So I was like that weird 5th grader that showed up. I had my hip boots on. I had my vest. I had my Homer Circle fishing hat on. A tackle box and a rod for show and tell. So this was, me going to school and like, this is what I love to do, man. Show and tell. I open a tackle box. Oh, look at him. Here's the little hula poppers. Because I just think about Fred Arbogast is going in Hall of Fame. Like he designed half the shit was in my tackle box back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was an awkward kid, and nobody else fished, and but that's what I love to do. So then middle school was probably more awkward. I mean, I didn't take any more fishing stuff to school. um, and then yeah, because by the time you 8th grade is like puberty. I don't know if it's quite there, but you see or smell a girl, and you're like,
Stuff changes.
Yeah, stuff definitely started changing. In freshman year, like, oh shit, forget it, just throw it all out the window. What else you want to do? How deep do you want to go back, Dave? So you and I have had a lot of conversations about my childhood and my past, and it wasn't easy. Yeah, my parents divorced when I was 5, and I really don't remember from like the age of 5 to 9 almost.
Really?
I blocked those years out of my life. Yeah. Wound up moving with my dad when I was 9, and that's kind of when I was actually just, he took me fishing a little bit more. And so I always struggled, but I raised myself essentially since I was, 9 or 10 years old. I mean, my dad wasn't home much. He was in the wrong places while I was home. And so, yeah, childhood wasn't easy. But I guess I learned how to fend for myself since day one, and not day one, but so whatever is what it is. And I'm still, I guess it taught me to be a survivor and fighter and do what you got to do to either get a bite to eat, and then fishing and whatever else it led to, work. And so I think that's the one thing. I was my grandfather, my dad's dad was he was like I still to this day, I mean, he's my idol. I love my grandfather. His work ethic, I mean, he was just, he worked his ass off, and, just working on, diesel engines for Detroit Diesel Engine Company. And, but I started working. I never had a problem working. I started working full time when I was 14 and a half. And because I wasn't in school anymore after sophomore year, I dropped out of school the middle of my sophomore year, and then so I just started working full time. So that's all I've done since I was, call it 15. So what's that? 40 years I've been working full time.
Isn't it wild how your brain works? Like when you say you don't really remember much between 5 and 9, like your brain literally, and anybody that goes through traumas,
Yep.
especially when they're young and their mind's developing, it's like your mind's like, you don't need to deal with that. Just, you're not going to remember it. I mean, it blows me away that actually is a thing.
It is. It's absolutely a thing. And it happens in all different types of forms for different people. So whatever it might be, but trauma does create this, I don't know if it's a security mechanism or it's what it is. It's the fear that just shuts shit out. And so that was, it's so many different, so I understand when people say that, hey, something happened to them in their life, whether young or old, but they have this block of time in there that they don't really remember shit. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I have a whole gap in my childhood is gone.
Wow. It's wild. I think we take the human body, the brain, all that way for granted. Like, I mean, obviously for granted, but when you think about it, like if you put it in any other terms, like if you were selling a new boat, that like, if you look if right now, if I cut my hand, and as long as I didn't cut it too deep, it would heal itself. Like if you could get a truck or a boat like that, but it just happens and we take it for granted. I think there's a lot more going on in people's.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, that's a great analogy. Is usually, like you said, you cut your hand, something, you put it, whatever, it heals. Your mind doesn't heal unless you work on it. So that's where, like, for me, I mean, I'm going through and struggle with depression for so many years, not realizing it, understanding now. So, but you can heal the memory, you can help heal the brain and understand and help yourself process information differently than you did before. So that's where you just had to be proactive about it. And so that's where, just lots of different types of therapy or just learning. So that it's like gives you new tools to process things differently so they don't affect you like they did before. So that trauma doesn't become as negative an impact in your life as it once was.
We're going to talk about your amazing accolades here today, but one of the most amazing things you did is get public with depression. What made you want to do that? Because I know it was something you were me and you have talked about it. It was something you were dealing with long before it was ever public. What made you say, hey, I'm going to put it out in the world?
Because I think I had lived in fear so much of my life, and always putting up a front to hide from that fear.
Yeah.
So I knew that making myself vulnerable is the ultimate path to healing myself. And making myself vulnerable to, for whatever it might be was scary as shit. And to be able to come forward with that and not hide and not tell lies. It's there's no lies here. This is the truth. This is what I'm going through, or I was going through. These are my challenges. And once I started, there was very few people. I think you were one of the first ones that I actually shared with. But at that time, for every time I shared my vulnerability with somebody, it felt empowering.
Yeah.
I just realized it was like, and it just like, okay. And then people come forward and like, dude, I feel you. I get you. I've gone through all the same process, or I'm struggling too. So you realize how many other people are out there just have their own struggles. They just don't talk about it. So I think every time I talked about it, it just made it easier and empowered me more to be able to say, yeah, I was screwed up. I get it. But I'm working on myself and going through the whole process. How do I help myself become a better person and not let other shit affect me like it did before? And now it's like, obviously being in a position that I've been for all these years, I guess that, there's so many people that, just like I looked up to Rick Clunn and Denny Brower, Larry Nixon. There's guys on tour now that said I was the reason they fish for a living. I'm like, whoa. So now I get to lead by example and let these guys know that, hey, I'm real. These are my struggles. So there's other people out there in the world that are looking up and watching what I've done and do and say, shit, Skeet. Wow, I go into that same struggle that Skeet did. And so just makes it, I think, more okay for people to talk about, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. We got deep quick here, Skeet. I didn't expect this to escalate as
Bro,
quick as
you would.
did.
Is it my fault? I don't know. Shit, I don't care.
No, it's nobody's fault. We got deep quick. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that says a lot. So tell me, 14 years old, you said 14 and a half. That's when you started working, left school, started working.
Yeah, I dropped out of high school in the middle of my sophomore year. I didn't take it. I didn't have a GED. I took a proficiency test. My dad said, like, if you pass your proficiency, you could leave school. And I didn't think there's any chance in hell I would pass it, but I actually somehow, it must have had a very low standard. So, but I did. I passed because with basic, I'm good with basic math. Left school, and I was driving when I was 14. And I went to my first job was actually as a busboy in a French restaurant called Le Poulier.
Le Poulier.
Le Poulier.
What does that mean? Do you know?
Hell if I know. Freaking good food. I don't. That was actually my brothers worked there before me, so I took over the busboy washing dishes in the back room. But then I wound up going to work and working for Food for Less grocery store. And
okay,
that was like my first full-time job. And stocking shelves, pushing carts, doing whatever. And that was it.
So that whole time, was fishing your goal, or did your goal, I mean, obviously you were into it from a very young age, but were you stocking shelves saying one day I'm going to be a freaking Bassmaster Classic champion?
No. I didn't know. I was like just trying to figure out how to survive in life. I knew I loved fishing. At that time I was fishing out with a float tube. And so my buddies and I mean, that's all we did. When I was 14 to 18 years old in that time frame, that's how I fished. That's how I learned how to fish, was out of a float tube in small lakes. And we'd have little tournaments within 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 tubes, whoever showed up that event, and what lake, and Spring Lake and Lake El Sanjo. And so the dream was there. I mean, we followed everything, and we knew all the superstars. Like, oh man, I was flipping the page back and they're like, oh man, ooh, Denny Brower, and it was just whatever, just being a fanboy. And I was obsessed with fishing to the point that I bought a bass boat before I bought a truck. So does that prioritize things?
I did the exact same thing, just so you know. I'm one of the humans on Earth.
So the screwed up thing, I actually went to buy a truck, and I found I think it was a 71 Chevy Fleet Side, had a little camper shell on it. And my dad took me over there, put a $500 deposit on the truck. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And then I go back the next day to get the truck. Truck's gone, dude's gone, my money's gone.
Oh.
I got scammed out of $500 when I was, I think I was 17 at that time.
Oh,
that sucked. So that went my truck. So yeah, I bought a boat when I was 18, and my dad had a 61 Ford inline 6, 3 in the tree transmission. It was like putting that and pulling that thing around for a little bit.
So, and entered tournaments. Like, when was it? Obviously, you fished tournaments out west. Yeah. What inspired? And one of the amazing things about Western anglers that I think is, you look at the percentage of Western anglers that make the move to national events. They're almost always successful. Very few of them are, not successful nationally. But I think that's because it's such a big leap. So, what inspired you to make the leap from the West to a national tour?
Well, I tried to fish full time out west at one point in time. Wasn't successful. I wound up being homeless, living in the back of my truck for a while, but rebounded. And I think it was 1997, just a couple years back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was Bass announced that they're going to come out west.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh shit, here we go. I was back fishing quite a few tournaments locally, but just working full time. And I was like, well, I don't want to live with regret. And I was like, here's my chance. I'm young. I'm still single. If I fail again, then so be it. Then I'll be a working stiff for the rest of my life. Well, shit, I guess I work more now than I thought I'd work for somebody else. But I quit my job. I was managing Outdoor Pro Shop, a tackle store in Northern California at that time. And I won my first 5 tournaments I fished.
Damn.
So, I mean, they're just like, team tournaments. And I won one TOC. I won a boat. So I won like 40 grand in a few months. I only had $3 grand in my bank account when I quit my job. So my balls were big and my dreams were bigger. But fortunately, I won some money, and that took like all the pressure off me right off the get-go. So I was able to start just, staying on the West Coast, but California, Nevada, Arizona. And I just started having more success in the desert lakes as well. And then the Opens came out west, and I won the points title the first year. Got into the Classic, and that's where the ball really started rolling.
That was back when you were wearing a vest at the Classic, wasn't it? You rock the vest.
Hell yeah. So I believe you might, well, it depends. I submitted to my first vest to the Hall of Fame for my display.
Nice.
So I don't know if they actually put it in there or not.
Why do you think the vests went away? I mean, I get sublimated is cool and everything, but like you would think somebody'd be like, I'm sticking.
So because the vests were pretty lame, to be honest with you. So it was just a cheap way, because you didn't have to worry about screwing up all your shirts, man. You just had one slip-on vest. You got like 3 or 6 or 9 patches on it, and you just, or so you could Velcro them on and take one off and put a new one on, and but yeah, looking back, I'm like, that was just a lazy ass way of putting our sponsors on a piece of fabric.
The vest might have been lame, but they were way cooler than the jumpsuits that came before them. That was pre you, obviously.
I would kind of like to rock a jumpsuit again.
Hall of Fame's a perfect night to rock a jumpsuit.
Yeah. Just real tight in the crotch.
Of course.
So you said you said this about dye sublimation jerseys. Now, I still am so not disappointed. It's where we're at. I look back at all the photographs from pre-dye sub jerseys.
Yeah.
The old embroidered
jerseys
still photograph and look so much better than dye sublimation. Dye sub, there's just they wrinkle too easy, they flap, you can't see logos, they're not crisp, shiny, you can't get metallic in it. So the old embroidered logos, and you could have foil finishes, and they were rigid. They scratch the shit out of your nipples.
Yeah, that's the problem with them.
Yeah, but that's why I always wear a t-shirt underneath, man.
Yeah, no, it I get you. And I think that the dye sub, and this isn't something you've been guilty of, but it also can do too much. Like you know what I mean? Like all of your jerseys I like the crispness. There's some people that have a lightning bolts and volcanoes and all sorts of things happening on a dye sub.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said from actual branding that simple allows a brand. Just, it's, why is it always backwards on the camera? Then
I don't know. It's the right way on my camera. Just saying.
Yeah, but it's wrong for me. So because I want to do this, because I see my here, I see it there, and I want to go, but it's not. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. Where was I going with this? I don't even know.
Dye sub. Where?
Oh,
bleeding nipples.
Branding aspects. So
yes.
Some of these guys' boats and jerseys are so eclectic.
Yeah.
That
crazy.
It takes away from whatever brand they're trying to promote. So that's where, so many guys fail in that department. They're like, it's cool, lightning bolts and asteroids and shit going through here, or whatever it might be. And it's the brand actually gets lost in it all. So, and a lot of jerseys do the same thing. So that's why he'll look at, my jerseys are always a single color, it's, black or yellow. So it doesn't matter if it's red, white, blue, whatever you just got to make sure that you have separation for that logo from branding to actually create mind awareness to a brand.
So talk to me about separation. When did you start to separate? Like, what was your breakout moments in your career? Like when you started saying, not the 40 grand and I paid some bills, but like when you went national and you're like, man, I'm starting to make a big impact.
I don't know. That's a great question. I'm trying to process that, and I never look back. I'm always just like, hey, what's the next deal? So, because I was working with sponsors on the West Coast prior to fishing full time, but I think when I did say that I committed to fish full time, instead of being a part-time angler, I got more commitment from other brands, so financial. I mean, as I remember, I got my first $300 a month retainer. I'm like, oh, you're going to pay me? It's like, wow, this is cool. I don't have to have free stuff now. I get a paycheck. So I don't know. There's so many things along the way. I mean, some people say it was the dancing at the classic.
That was a big moment. You rocked the vest in that.
Shit, I did rock the vest in that one. I don't know, because I look at there's so many events through my career from, mostly I look at I base it on tournament winning.
Yeah.
So whether it was winning, my first Redman's out here, Redman All-American, or regional qualifiers, winning the points on the Bassmaster Opens out here, qualifying for a classic, winning Harris Chain in 2003, or winning Lake Powell, I think in 2000, going to Harris Chain, winning in 2003 on the tour. And then, just when you win, all the other shit comes together a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. It's funny when you were saying that, I was thinking how it may be a little different today for rookies. Like at your time, it was literally.
You think?
No, but I just mean like they have so many. You could only judge your success on victories, on high places. But they also, like, you might ask somebody that started now 10 years from now, and they'll be like, well, I had that viral video that popped off. Mm-hmm. It's really changed that way.
I'm not going to, I can't argue with that on that at all, because there's so many new ways for people to be recognized. Obviously social media wasn't around when I first started. It wasn't. It's interesting. That's where it's all based on print media and television media. That was the baseline of how we measured our success early on. And now it's, people get successful in notoriety that don't even fish tournaments, or so it's a much different space now than it ever has been.
Does that bother you that people outside of tournament anglers are cutting into the pie?
No, I don't. I'm okay with people finding their own path, and whatever that is. That's I would say early on, when the YouTube thing started happening, I think I was pretty upset. I struggled with it. Because here's these guys that have, in my mind had no, still most of them have no fishing credibility, but they have, they do something enough to entertain a crowd on their YouTube platform. So, but could they compete on a fishing basis with a professional angler throughout the country? No. Most of them couldn't. That's why I love Milliken, because he's like, Ben's like comes in and YouTuber was like, but I can jack their ass, and he's been doing it. So I love it. So I think early on I did struggle with it. But then I realized that, they have every right to go do what they're trying to do, and they're enjoying it, and they're making a living fishing in the fishing industry, however they do it, then shit, good for them. Yeah. So I don't have that resentment towards them. I don't have any resentment towards them. It did change the market, because where it used to be that it was strictly the tournament angler that was influenced the entire market.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I always look at it as a 50-50. It's like your screen here. It's like, on the professional side, you're the recreational angler side. And half that business was always influenced by professional angling. The other half was just whatever was in the store, and they bought it that weekend. They're just trying to catch the bluegill bass. Didn't matter. So our market has changed to the point that, it's diluted more than it used to be. So some of the value has decreased from a professional angler. Companies aren't putting as much into the professional angler pie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the pie used to be whatever, was, 20 slices. Now that pie is like 220 slices. So it's comes incremental. But then again, I also look at the guys that are good, doesn't matter whether it's professional angler or YouTuber, social media influencer, when they're good at their craft, then they're better than everybody else and they can still be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Like, I think if there wasn't professional fishing with what you've accomplished in your career, I think you still accomplish it on YouTube or however, you know what I mean? However it would have been, it takes the same work ethic, you can't,
Oh, absolutely.
and it was almost cleaner back then. You know what I mean? Because you knew, okay, here's where I'm finishing in the standings. If I want to make more money, if I want to move up the ladder with said sponsor, I need to move up the ladder of standings. Same with TV shows. You can clearly look and say, okay, this is the ratings. Now the waters are very, very, very messy. You don't know, you know what I mean? Like
it's so much different than it was 10 years ago. What the future looks like, I have no idea. I just know, I mean, for myself, I'm very grateful to have had the career that I've had during the timelines that I've had it.
Yeah.
I don't, until we see something happen in the industry. So whether we get some big breakthrough to capture some ginormous new audience that changes the revenue stream for a sport, if we continue on the path we're on, this is just my personal opinion. I don't believe any angler will be as profitable as what we already went through.
You can't argue with that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at contracts and where they've come and how they've changed, the good old days really are the good old days.
They were great days. What are you talking about? They were freaking amazing.
You made serious bank, Skeet.
I did make a lot of money. I'm not going to lie. I've done extremely well in the fishing industry, and I am super grateful for that. And, obviously it's a lot of hard work, a lot of decision making, but I've had a lot of people give me the opportunity, and we've done a lot of cool things.
That drive that you clearly have in your entire career, did a lot of that come from a tough childhood?
That's a great question. I have to believe yes, because my dad didn't teach me a work ethic. I mean, that was definitely not it. So it was, my life was about survival, and how do I get myself ahead? What can I do to push myself to that next level, whether it's, financially, and then, but I also, it's interesting because like, this is my revelation here in the last, maybe 3 years, 4 years now. I realize this. I mean, oh shit. As much as I love fishing and I love that blink, that split second of adrenaline rush, I also realized that fishing was my escape from the truth of the rest of my life. So hiding from struggles, whatever they were at that time, I always was able to get on the water, and it's like this shit. It's like, okay, well, I don't know what else. Forget all the other stuff right now. I got 8, 10, 12, 14 hours of this. And you keep the other shit out. That's where I realized, I'm like, wow, I really did use fishing for a crutch most of my life. And so I'm grateful for it, because it's like, well, if it wasn't for fishing, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now either. So, but it is, so I realized it was a twofold. So I love the bite. I love the thrill of the catch. I love catching them. There's nothing that's it. Yeah. that's the shit I love. And I've tested myself with that every year. It's like, do I really like fishing? Yes, I do. I'm like, I love this. But I also realized that it was a great escape for me. And where the hell are we going with this?
I asked if growing up, the way you grew up, is that what drove you, to become as successful as you become? I think you answered it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, because I grew up with nothing. So, and it's interesting. So I've met a lot of very successful people in different, sports, crafts, businesses. And I think the most common denominator that I get from these guys and gals is that they all struggled and came from nothing, because it's that ambition to want to be able to have more than what you had and change. How do I change my life? Because what I had wasn't not what I wanted.
That makes total sense. But what really impresses me about your career, about Kevin's career, a select group, the way
Kevin's a freak.
Oh yeah, he is. He really is. Yeah. Do you wish he was never born, Skeet?
Well, I'd have like at least 2 more Angler of the Year titles. So, prick. No. Well, it's interesting. I mean, so we're on the Kevin thing. So, I love Kevin. We all love Kevin. But him and I are like complete opposites.
How so?
Well, he thinks he's great at everything.
No. He really does. He really does.
It does. I mean, it's like, so, and I never had that. I've never thought I was good at anything. Yeah, I've been just on a roller coaster ride, just trying to figure out life. And, his path was completely different than mine growing up. And so, but we are complete opposites, but in the end, I mean, we both have created successful careers out of it.
How did you keep, and that's where I was going with the you and Kevin thing. I look at how long your career was, and not just how long it is, but how long you've been competitive in tournaments, winning. I mean, you won earlier this year. It's real easy in my head to figure out, okay, well, you came from nothing, so you're going to work your ass off to get something and a little more and a little more. But for a long time, you've been very comfortable. How do you keep that competitive fire burning once you're there?
Good question. There's something about winning that, I mean, that's just, dude, what we do is just gambling. It's all it is. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, we pay entry fees. It's no different than a poker tournament. I don't like losing my money. So, so when I get on the water, I want to figure out how to win. That's the fun part, is like, I think it's like once you taste a win and that experience, that rush that comes with it, it's like that. You just got to have more. And you're like, okay, how do I do that again? What is it I got to do to beat the rest of these guys this week? What decision process? And I think that's what I love, is I love the mental process of it. It's because I look at most of my wins throughout my career. It's very seldom do I have like a strategic plan or one spot that wins a tournament. It's a lot of it is just like, it's on the fly.
Yeah.
It's like that bite died. I got to switch and you go do this. And then that didn't work. I got to go do this. So I think it's just that constant. I mean, it is constant. It's all here. I mean, this is what separates all of us on tour. So, and it's no different than any other sport.
Yep.
every sport is the greatest of all time. It's their mindset is different than 99% of the rest of the field. So how do you handle that pressure when you're on the water, make those decisions? And that's where you're like, yeah, because the more I always got, I mean, I loved extreme shit because I'm like, I just laugh like the rest of these guys are out of the equation right now. And so I don't know. I still, to answer your question, I don't.
You like winning. You like titles.
I do like winning. I don't like losing. I don't want to be a loser.
Well, and that also got to scream back to your upbringing. You know what I mean? Like you.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I think that one of the negatives that's happening in the world right now, and we all try to fight it with our kids, you want to equip your kids to be successful as possible. But one of the problems is, I mean, fear is a good thing to have in your life. And I have it, you know what I mean? I have fear I'm going to lose my truck. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose, you know what I mean? But it's a realistic thing when you don't come from a lot. And I think that's one of the things in the world now. I don't know that as many kids feel that fear.
No, I promise you they don't. Every generation is entitled the previous generation or the next generation more and more. So we taught our parents made it easier on us in some aspects, and then we make it easier on our kids and, you know, whatever. So I think the mindset of our society is changing and is a lot different than it was 20 years ago and 50 years ago and 100 years ago for sure. So, I don't see as many people in situations that are like that hungry.
Yeah.
Meaning like, I'm going to do this. Either if I don't do this, I don't know what I'll do. They're like, I'll figure it out. No, it's like, I don't think people push themselves as much.
I'll always tell a lot of kids that I talk to, they say, I dream of being a pro angler. And I'm like, that's not enough. You need to have a nightmare of not being it. You know what I mean? And that, I think, is the strongest motivation. Like the fear of not making it will make you work harder. I mean, it's just like hate. If somebody gives you hate, I mean, we all had somebody that when you said, hey, I'm gonna fish for a living, that laughed in your face and said, you're an idiot. And that person, at least in my situation, pushed me more to find a way to make a living in this sport than the person that said, hey, I got your back, you will do it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that fear and hate can push somebody harder than the most amount of love.
Unfortunately, yes, you're right. Because I think a lot of people have a harder time accepting, what's the word? Positive criticism.
Yeah.
You know, because I think, you know, a very common thought for a lot of people is I'm not good enough. So that's a fear, internal fear that, you know, a lot of kids, we're all taught, our parents, whatever. We have this fear we're not good enough and not believing in themselves. So when you do hear something good, you're like, yeah, bullshit. But then somebody tells you sucked, you're like, he's right, but I'm going to prove him wrong. And
it's true.
So, yeah.
It's wild.
It's just the mindset is, there's, how do we change that though? How do we change how we look at people and judgment, or how do we get people to believe in themselves again and push themselves to be not complacent?
I don't know that you can get anybody to do that. I think it's
how do we motivate
but it's in yourself. Like it has to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, why did you make it? Like, obviously you're an immensely talented angler, but you grew up around a lot of immensely talented anglers. And it's not fishing, whether it's baseball, whether it's hockey, whatever. Every pro that makes it will tell you, hey, there was this dude when I was 18 that owned me. But there was something that dude, either because of life choices or whatever, chose not to push it or take the risk.
Yep.
It's weird. But you're right. And you look at social media, I mean, you can get so many like next week, you are going to be flooded with congratulations. But if one dude and if that dude does it, I will show up at your house and I will take to your face with a cheese grater. So don't do this. But if one dude I don't know why Skeet's in the Hall of Fame, he doesn't deserve it. That will be in your head way more than hundreds of people saying, congratulations, a great career.
So because that will happen.
No.
Promise.
So it should.
No,
everybody
no,
listens.
because there's dumbasses out there. There's people, there's keyboard jockeys that love to say stupid shit anyways.
Oh yeah, there is.
But I also realized that, that stuff really used to affect me because I would have been that way. There'd be 1,000 positive comments and there'd be one prick in there that would say something mean. And that would just eat at me. And I was like, why? And so, but then I realized that usually triggers some internal fear. Why do I worry about that? So I am so much better now about when somebody, because I know it doesn't matter what I post, there's a hate.
Yeah.
So it's like, can I drop F-bombs or I don't know what this is.
Feel free. Be yourself, Skeet. Let it rip.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty much fuck you guys. I don't care anymore. I don't. It's like, if you don't like me, that's your choice. I know that I fish for a living and you guys are sitting in your mom's closet somewhere writing this and not fishing for a living. So it's like, whatever. So I don't let that stuff bother me like I used to.
My response has generally become, what are you really mad at? Because it's not. You know what I mean? Like, dude isn't just like, I mean, me and you could post hey, went fishing, threw swim baits. Somebody would be like, why are you throwing swim baits this time of year? You idiots. Blah, blah, blah. So, he's not really mad that we're out there throwing swim baits. He's mad at something else. You know what I mean? His girlfriend dumped him. He got cut off on the way home. Like, so what are you really mad at?
It's true though. It's like, yeah, it's so interesting. So how many people have opinions about stuff they don't really know anything about? They don't have any facts on. So
no, you don't need facts. You just have to do it in all capital letters, and people will be like, "Wow, he's pissed." It's such a stupid time in history. Like I fear for. And not to sound like an old guy, but I fear for kids. Like I'm like, I think my honest opinion is everybody when they go to school, other than the very, very few, don't feel like the most popular kid. You know what I mean? Like,
social media is not helping them anymore.
Well, now they have a rater, a thing at the end of the day that you can be like, well, I got this many likes, so I'm not. You know what I mean? But.
Well, the statistics are out there. I mean, we have scientific data to prove what social media is doing to our children. And it's not good. There's nothing positive about it whatsoever. But it is where we're at. I mean, how do you, I think it's a matter of each family, parenting and understanding and hopefully having a relationship with their kid to, hey, this doesn't define you. Just because you don't wear these clothes or do this doesn't mean you are worthy and good enough. And so how do you have those conversations? But yeah, it's social media. It's a crazy place because it's instant feedback. Like the attention span of people is crazy.
Yeah.
I always thought I was ADD like growing up, but like kids now it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it used to be like, if you could hold my attention for, an hour, that was really good. Now you got to try and hold these kids' attention for 5 seconds.
Yeah. It is wild. It's, I don't know. I've always said to kids too, because so many kids have a hard time in high school. And I'm always like, if there's any point in life, literally any point in life that you want to suck, high school's a good one. It's the shortest. No, really. I mean, it's 4 years. It's for some of us. I mean, it wasn't for me either, just so you know.
It was a year and a half. I mean,
It was very short. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at like how that works, like, I mean, it doesn't matter. I say, like, things like that just don't let bullshit get in your head.
Unfortunately, that's like the most impressionable time of your life, too.
Yeah.
I thought this was, I'm starting to hear it more and more. I know that I don't know where, but now there some schools, the kids have to turn their phones in during class. So when you walk into class, you put your phone up in a holder. So there's no phones in class.
Which shocks me that that's even a freaking rule. It's happening here too. Like, we're no phones in class, and people are like, my kid's not allowed a phone in class. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, what the hell? Like,
you're not there to scroll.
And they just mindlessly scroll. Like, I went to see, you know who Louis C.K. is? He's a stand-up comic.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's very big, very big. Played a lot of arenas. Got rolled up in the Me Too scandal because he gratified himself in front of somebody. But he asked permission. It was a weird thing. But anyways, I saw him on his comeback tour at a small venue, and we had to lock our phones up in these cases. And dude, I enjoyed the show better because of that. And I avoid my phone. Like, I mean, I've got good at putting it away and stuff, but it's just that thing that you get a ding and you have to look at it. It's the world's a happy world.
You're doing this, you're filming the performer. So I totally get it, because the family and I, we went to a Bruno Mars concert in Vegas, and Anderson .Paak, and they same thing, no phones. So you had to put it all in a case and couldn't use it. And then the entire arena was dancing, having a great time.
Yeah.
There's not one flash, nobody not thousands of phones filming the segment. And it's like, this is really cool.
It's so weird. Like, I'm sure you've seen the pictures of like Michael Jordan doing a dunk, and you look at everybody in the crowd, like they're all just like mesmerized on him. And now you look at LeBron dunking, and all it is phones. It's strange. Social media sucks, except for this show. Except for this show. Everyone come watch this show.
You're like old now. It's like we're like the old crotchety dudes now.
Oh yeah, I'm not old now. I've been old for a while, Skeet. Well, ever since you left me, it's all gone downhill for me.
Is that why you turned gray?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a few of these were due to that bullshit. So, speech next week. You've written something, or are you just going to wing it?
I thought about winging it. That's what that is right there. So my kid, Courtney, she had a great tip for me. So I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to write a speech. She goes, I give you a couple tips. And because my kids have done like great speeches in school. I'm like, I don't know where the hell I get this from. But she goes, do voice dictation. Don't type, because I can't type. I mean, I'm a henpecker. And she goes, when you voice dictation, you'll write more of your emotions into it.
Yeah.
So where typing, you can't type as much the inflection of, the highs and lows or whatever. So just because for me, it's more robotic, thinking about every word. Click, okay, yes, that I did a great job. So she said, do voice dictation and then color code your paragraphs to know that you've exited one once you finish that color. So you're not like going back and forth. Oh shit, did I miss a paragraph? So the voice dictation was amazing. It was an absolute freaking train wreck because I cried. It was me in my computer crying for hours and hours. And I'm like, holy shit, really? So I've gotten through, I can read back 95% of it without crying now. But yeah, the end's going to be a mess. So
yeah. And you're reading that on a piece of paper. You ain't staring at Bill Dance, Bob Cobb, Johnny Morris,
Exactly.
and it's dude. And all I do is MC the freaking thing. It is the most terrifying. I'm not scared of the Classic at all. Like, dude, I wish we'd 100,000 people in the crowd at the Classic. That's a drug for me. But
Right,
that night is scary as crap. Like, it just scares the shit out of me because there's Basil Bacon sitting there. Like,
thanks, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's gonna. Don't worry, Zona's getting in, and he's a baller too, so he'll be crying. It'll be a lot.
Well, so that's funny. So Steve Barbara Bowman calls me the other day. She's like, "Well, you only have like 3 to 5 minutes." I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, she goes, "No, you have like 3. We need to be 3 to 5 minutes." And then Steve calls me that night and goes, "So I heard you talk to Barbara. So she says you can't do it in 3 minutes." He goes, "We need it to be 3 to 5 minutes." I'm like, there's no chance. How in the hell am I going to thank everybody that's impacted my life to get to where I'm at in 3 minutes?
And do the moment justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you could roll up there and be like, "Hey, thanks, blah, blah, blah," and get up. But you also feel like, it's the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. You got to do the moment justice.
Yeah, because it's like this. The speech has nothing to do with me. Everybody knows what I've done, my accolades. I'm not there for me. I'm there to thank the people that helped shape me and mold me and gave me a path to be where I'm at today. That's all it is.
You'll do fine. You'll do fine. You'll just take.
Nervous, aren't you?
Oh no, I'm not nervous at all. I don't get nervous till the last minute. I'm very good at ostriching life, and what I mean by that is I just bury my head in the sand. Like, all the way down there, won't be nervous, but then 30 minutes before, I'll be like, "Oh shit, I got to do this." And again, the Classic, no problem, but that room is a whole different freaking room. It's
I think that's weighed on me a lot, is like realizing, like, literally, like, everybody that has helped make this industry the key, a lot of, not all of them, but a lot of key people that have built this sport for the last 50 years are in that room.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not worthy. Like, wow, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like, yeah, it's we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I'm debating. So what do you think? I thought about, can I put this on an iPad?
Yeah.
And scroll it?
Yeah.
Or because this is like a novel.
You can put it on an iPad. I'll show you. There's a teleprompter app you can get and put it on your iPad, and it'll actually go while you're reading it.
Get out of here.
100%. I'll show it to you.
Bro.
Yeah.
Hook me up.
Yeah. No, it's easy. It's free app. A lot of ads probably. But it's
I don't need a Viagra ad right in the middle of my speech. So.
Would be the best ad to come up. The next 3 minutes brought to you by Viagra. And it'd be a great room to advertise that too.
Well, most of them could use it in there.
What's your favorite word? It's a weird one, huh?
Well, my favorite word.
Is it the word you asked if you could say?
Hey, Kim. What's my favorite word? Yeah. Do I have a favorite word? She's thinking. I don't know.
Okay. We'll go a different direction then. What's your least favorite word?
Least favorite word. No.
Yeah, that's not a fun one to get ever. So you got a favorite one now or no? Just least favorite. talk to me.
No, I'm like, dude, you threw me a knuckleball there. I'm like, what the hell?
That's what I mean, dude, there's a lot of boring fishing podcasts. I got to ask something different. I mean, no one ask how many strands you had on your skirt when you won the Classic.
Yeah, see, that stuff's trivial to me. I don't care about. There's so many guys that are anal as shit about.
You're not.
I'm not. Dude, I tie shit off out of the package and go.
So you think they're just wasting their time with all that stuff, or?
In most situations, yeah, it's a confidence thing. So, yeah, I don't think it's very seldom is it, the magic lure or this, that you got that one chartreuse dot behind, pecker, and it's whatever. It's big guys like, yeah, like Aaron. I mean, dude, I can't argue. Aaron was like the greatest worm fisherman I've ever known in my life. He's colorblind, but he's like, bro, like, look, man, it's got just a little bit of flake right there. And I'm like, dude, you're out of control.
Wow. But Aaron was Aaron. Like, Aaron, I mean,
I'm like, I can't argue. It's like, but my process is, I'm a little rougher. I'm about outworking, outperforming on the water, and that's how I do it.
Yeah.
No secret lures.
Aaron, and I'm not saying anything that I didn't say to him, but I always said you got a little bit of autism in you from growing up with an autistic daughter. I mean, because and that's what, if you look at all of his stuff,
his brother was, so
he can hyper focus. He had to hyper focus to make sure all the worms were right and everything. I mean, he's the only angler ever that I've been on the water covering, and he literally stopped and spent 30 minutes respooling rods. Like, I've seen guys respool one, he respooled them all. Like, but to Aaron and to a lot of people, that's what makes them amazing at things, because it allows them to hyper focus and nothing else matters but that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he was an amazing man. Obviously, I don't want to get you into that because
I'll start crying again.
Yeah.
I love him.
We all loved him, and I think that, and I say this all the time, I think the most special thing about Aaron is, sadly, when people pass, just the way human nature is, everybody says, "Oh, that person was an amazing person." That, you know what I mean? There's most people. But I think Aaron was that special person that we all knew. Nobody would have predicted that he would pass as early as he did. No. Obviously, I mean, he's the most healthy person I know in my life, like both mentally, physically, spiritually, like, but I feel like we all knew how special he was when he was here.
For sure. I mean, granted, he was 18 years old. So when I started competing against him out here in team event stuff, and 17 maybe. And I think early on here, I'm like, this dude's a fruit ball. But I'm like, he's just not. But then as I got to know him, and you're like, there's no way you could not love him, because he's just like this genuine, nice guy, and just like happy, lucky go, just funny. I mean, but then you're like, watch him catch fish. I'm like, dude's a freaking magician. I mean, he just like, how the frick you do this shit? And it's like, yeah, we're always going to have nuances come through the sport that are superstars. And, like somebody that just, obviously like, Jacob Wheeler right now is a freak of nature in the fishing industry. He's a fishing machine. But so Aaron's like that, how many Aarons have we seen come through in 50 years? Not a whole lot of them.
No. He thought about things totally different. Like, I mean, we all have it. Like, I mean, of all the anglers I've covered, he's the one, like, generally you can predict what their next move is. He is always the one that was like, I'm just casting over there now.
So the only other one that I can compare him to is Dave Glebe.
Okay.
And you've probably never been around Dave Glebe. So Dave is, he's kind of the one. He put flipping on the mat. D. Thomas invented flipping. Glebe is the first one to take it back east and start showing these guys how to do it. But Dave is that same, like, he'll be going down the lake to go to a spot he's been leading the tournament on. All of a sudden he's like, meow, where the hell are you going? I don't know. I just want to go over here. So, but he's the only guy that said he's caught like, 110 pounders out of Lake Shasta when whatever. I call bullshit on that one. So
that was so good. Dave Glaby, you were building Dave Glaby.
But Dave, that's so any of the OGs, like the original OGs from Bass days, are the West Coast. If you ask them about, ask Clun when he said Hall of Fame, ask Rick or Gary Klein or somebody about Dave Glaby, and I'm like, oh yeah, he was definitely in a world of his own.
Yeah.
Kind of like
I've heard all about Dave Glaby. I've just never spent any time with him. But why do you think you became the force that you are in this sport? Like, do you ever can you figure that out?
I just figured I was too stubborn and stupid to do anything different. So I don't know. I wish I could give you an answer like to what made, because in my head, how I view myself, I don't look at myself as somebody. I don't look at myself as a Rick Clun, a Larry Nixon, a KVD. I don't. I don't know how to answer that.
Do you think the Hall of Fame, it's not just the induction, but it's also like I know how you are. You're always looking forward. Winning one's never enough. It's where's the next one. But do you think the Hall of Fame, that's one of the reasons it's so humbling, because it forces you to look back on all these milestones that you probably didn't stop to really appreciate it at the time because you were just busy chasing more?
That's a great question, because it really did. It has forced me to reflect on my career. And in that process of looking back from when my first Redman tournament win on Clear Lake, that was, to me, that was such a huge stepping stone for me. Back in, I don't know, I was 20 years old. So what's that? 35 years ago. But going through the memorabilia and the trophies and the plaques, and I'm looking around my shop or my office in here, and I have the shit everywhere. And, it has made me reflect on it. It's like, wow. It's like, gosh, I guess I have done a lot. It's like, just not from tournament wins, but product developments and disrupting marketplaces and developing colors, whatever. So when I look back at it now and realize how much I've done in my career, that's quite a bit. So, I guess just kind of like, I guess I could tell myself, it's like, well, that's pretty cool. Good job. Like, proud of myself, and realize it's like, gosh, I set out, I didn't know what it meant, but I've set out and I've built a brand and a career and been able to catch fish and have as much fun as I could possibly have for 25 or 27 years. I don't even know what year it is. So 97, that's 28 years now I've fished for a living.
And you're freaking Skeet Reese. I mean, it's almost like, when two buddies are fishing and somebody's like, I'm going to do this. What do you think? You're Skeet Reese? You are freaking Skeet Reese.
I see that. I'm just a dumbass that just likes to fish. That's like, I don't know. I know that's just me playing off something, but I know that I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud that, whatever, you can't see me and stuff, but to be able to do what I've done. I'm super proud and grateful that I've been able to do this. And I never did it to impact somebody else. I didn't do it for somebody else. I wasn't doing this to be famous. I just did this for myself because I needed something to make me feel good about myself, essentially. And so this, really is validation is like, you know what? Hey, you're not as fucked up as you thought you were. So
you're like an anti-self-help book. Don't stay in school. Don't get good at math. But guess what? You can make a lot of money if you work your ass off. But it's the truth, because kids go to school and they're told, here, you've got this little piece of paper. Now life's going to be easier. And the world is full of kids that are like, it does make things easier, but the world's full of kids that are like, that I'm supposed to get. I mean, I don't know about you, but I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, talent is cool, but it fades. The most important thing is that you're a decent human to work with and that you work your ass off, because that's always the person you'll call back. And it doesn't matter whether it's to become a tournament angler, whether it's to become a gardener, whatever, the good dude that is fun to work with and works their ass off. That's who you'll always go back to.
They just keep showing up and doing it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It just keeps showing up, not giving up and walking away from it, and just say, this is too hard. And that's what most. Yeah. So, that's what I tell people is like, don't ever, until you know what you want to do is. So because a lot of people don't have that passion. They don't know what their passion is. They don't know what their directive is in life is. I was fortunate. I knew early. Like my father-in-law is a musician, so he knew early. And so most athletes most of them know early. But it doesn't mean just to be a professional athlete or musician. It's just, if you're intrigued with anything, music, art, math, science, NASA, frick, it's like, if you have an interest, pursue it. Because when you have an interest that you actually have an interest in, it's amazing how much more effort you put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you don't give a shit about something, then it's like, I'm just here. So that's, I tell everybody, it's like, you don't have to have a college education or a high school education to be successful in life. There's so many other options for people out there. So if you don't know what your path is, you don't know what you want to do, then don't limit yourself until you figure that out. So don't limit yourself by not going to school. Because if you do wind up going to college and you get a degree in something, you still don't know what you want to do. And then you get out of college, you're like, this is what I want to do. And then, shit, I got the education now to support it. So that's why I always, don't limit yourself till you know.
Were you the kind of guy that would write 5-year plans, 10-year plans?
Dude, I'm a day-to-day life. Yeah. I mean, no, not 5-year, 10-year. I mean, my schedule's filled and booked through next season, next year already. I'm like, already, my calendar is like, all right, I'm very structured in how I do things. But as far as what my goals are, I mean, I've never written down goals and set goals. I just want to, how do I win one? How do I make a buck? How do I put my kids through school? How do I get a hug from my kid? So these things,
it's all a means to an end. And I weirdly enough, like, there's so many people. I'm 100% on it with you in the way that I've always said, like, in life, the dreams that I've always had are so ridiculous that if you wrote it down on paper, somebody would just tell you you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, and I get the whole, like, you should write your plans down, but I also think, like, you should not limit yourself to plans, because if you look at your career, if at the beginning of your career, somebody said, hey, write down where you want to be, you would have never fathomed.
I would have wrote, like, it would have capped out 15 years ago, maybe. No, I get what you're saying. Is like, I didn't know. I just want to fish.
Yeah.
I want to fish for a living. I mean, so that right there, where's that one? This one.
Your rods.
Yeah, that thingy, that Reese fishing logo. So that's like that right now. That's Reese fishing is like that's the only thing that that's my next. What's next?
Yeah.
Beyond tournament world, and so how do I build a brand and build a company that it's my exit strategy from the tournament world, but it's also just a way because I love product development, I love designing shit, and I love there's people that it's funny saying people that say you can't do it, or they kick you to the curb because they don't think you're value anymore. So there's I got a bit of a chip on my shoulder with a few things that have helped motivate. I'm just being 100% transparent here. But Reese fishing is something that I've been designing rods for 35 years.
Yeah.
So now it's like, let's do it ourselves. So that's my, I don't know I don't have an end result, what it is. I'm not saying, okay, I got to have this $10 million business or whatever. I just know that I want it to be a self-sustaining running brand in itself. And so that's what I'm working on.
So with that in mind, do you have a timeline? Like how long do you think you'll fish for? I mean, you freaking just won.
Great question. Well, the beginning of the year, I thought I wasn't going to make it to next season because on the Bass Pro Tour, we got a cut. We lost 15 guys this year. So, and I was on the outside looking in, barely. So I was like, well, shit, I might be retiring after all. But fortunately, I mean, I pulled my panties up and I kicked some ass and won a tournament and put myself back in contention. So I qualified for 2025. But there's another cut process, scaling the field back to 50 for 26. So where I'm going to be in the points after the next year, I have no idea. So if I qualify for 26, I'll probably continue on. If I don't qualify, then that would probably be the end of it for me. I'm not going to go chase invitationals or Toyotas or Bassmaster Opens or NPFLs. I'm not going to go do any of that. I'd be like, I'm going to go to Clear Lake and crappie fish and catch some big bass or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's Rick Clunn. After 50 years, no more Elite Series.
Dude,
but
I love
Opens.
Rick, but that dude, so he's kind of like an Aaron. He's a freak of nature.
Oh, 100%.
I'm like, yeah. Can I let a little? You want it? When's this airing?
It airs the night before you go in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Next Wednesday. So, you got something? Scoop?
Well, I asked Rick to put the jacket on me.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, the dude that inspired me to fish for a living when I was 12 created like that. Holy shit, fishing for a living. Rick Clunn. That's what he does. That's literally the dream was set in place when I was 12 years old because of him. And I'm like, how crazy is this? That I'm going into the Hall of Fame and he's going to be putting the jacket on me.
Very cool, very fitting. And I mean, one of the images that
means he's old as shit.
Yeah. He doesn't age. He's ageless. He doesn't age. I mean, he's more powerful than aging. He's Rick Clunn.
It's Rick Clunn. Yes, master.
He is the freaking master. He yelled at me on stage this year because the day before he retired, and we all kind of knew maybe he's going to step away. You know what I mean? He's done it for 50 years. He is 78 years old. I mean, at some point. And one of the greatest gifts I got is this year he's come on this podcast a bunch. Like he has his own. I don't know if you watch this podcast, but there's Clunn Days where Rick comes on and we've talked about like amazing things. But obviously you don't listen to it, or you would have said, "Hey, I enjoy those." Anyways, so we'll continue on. But Rick Clunn,
Dave, I listened to all of them.
No, you're lying. You're lying to me right now.
I did not. I did lie. I have not. I listened to some when I can.
That's fine. Will you listen to this one?
No. I don't like listening to myself.
Okay. If you had said, I was going to call you an arrogant son of a. But anyways, with Rick Clunn, where I was going with that, one of the coolest things, I consider myself very lucky to have the position that I have and be able to see the things that I've seen. And one of the most powerful things I ever saw was when Rick won the first time on the St. Johns River, you walking up with his bag of fish beside him on the dock.
Dude, you're going to make me lose my shit right now. That meant so much to me. Like, here's Rick Clunn. And dude, I literally helping him carry up this ginormous winning stringer of fish for him to win at 73 years old. I forget what age. I think it was. And I was like, just to be part, I was so honored. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm helping Rick Clunn. I was like a little kid, like, I'm carrying Rick Clunn's bag of fish up. Yeah, that was, dude. Yeah. That's how he said, we were talking. He goes, I wish I was there to carry your bag up for you in your last win. I'm like, oh. So.
Yeah. It's special. Special, the relationships, and that's the thing that bugs me with all of the stuff that's happening now. I'll keep talking until you clean yourself up.
My office is hot as shit, though. It's like 80 degrees in here. I don't know why it's so hot in here. So,
well, put the air conditioning on.
Apparently, I'm cheap.
You're a wealthy man, Skeet. True story. I don't know if you know KJ Queen, but he's an Elite Series guy. He's been around for a few years. He lives in his truck. We call it the Queen Machine. So I had him on the podcast once, and I said, well, we got to do it in the Queen Machine because it's kind of his thing. I mean, he's kind of a Scooby-Doo, Shaggy-Doo type character. So he says, okay, no problem. So we do the whole podcast, and we're done. Stop recording. And I'm like, hey, thanks. And all I see is him going, taking off all his clothes. I'm like, dude, what's wrong? He's like, I didn't have the air conditioning on in here. I've been sweltering the whole interview. And he said, I had a non-sponsored shirt under my hoodie, so I couldn't take it off. And I'm like, dude, you could at any time you could have been like, hey, I got to take my shirt off. But I appreciate the commitment.
Then you're like, then it just got weird.
Well, no, I didn't mean take your shirt off as part of the podcast. I meant like you could be like, hey, give me a minute. I need to take my shirt off. I mean, there's been weirder things that have happened on this show. You should really think about tuning in, Skeet.
You know what, Dave? It's not that I don't love you.
I know.
I don't. My schedule is so freaking nuts. Trying to find time to listen to everybody's podcast and follow everything, I struggle with.
I hear you.
I'm still trying to figure out, like, did I take a shower today? Because I went and I did a 6-mile run today, and I did
nice.
I did 1,000 feet of elevation gain.
Dang.
Yeah. So my feet stink right now. I can smell them.
Yeah. Well, thankfully I can't. Here's the truth. I don't really care if you watch Skeet. Just play it. Just go once a week.
I'm going to play. I know, because it goes towards your minutes. I get it. So
I appreciate it.
I'm going to. So, and I'm going to go. I'm going to set my computer up, and I'll stream everything for the last
don't lie.
6 months. So I got to build your minutes and ratings up. So.
No, you
I will watch, but
it's fine. It's fine. Our relationship, let's be totally honest. I mean, me and you are very close. Like, I've had very close conversations that I've had with very few people on both sides, me and you both. Yep. But I feel like our relationship has been a little, not strained, but I feel like we needed a little time out. I mean, I feel like we both.
I think you feel like you needed a timeout.
Oh, no, we did for a little while, Skeet. It was better for both of us. Not a timeout, but it was just like things got aggressive. And I think I said this to you once. I said, Skeet, me and you both don't know how to not play nicely, but you know what I mean? Like, when you are a part of something, you're all in. I'm 100% the same.
Right.
Things escalated, and it was... I mean, it's just hard to talk when that's all going on, but it's all good now. It's all good, I think. I mean, everyone just hates forward-facing sonar, so leagues are getting along all of a sudden.
It is interesting. Yeah, the focus is somewhere else now.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I hate the most out of, and not just the split, but the last number of years, and I talk about it all the time on this show, the want to always be at war. And I don't mean between leagues. I mean, there's people who make a career out of telling people that the world's going to end because of forward-facing sonar. There's people who make a career for saying you know what I mean? And the truth is, nobody knows what the future is. What I'm saying is, why can't we all just get along?
Well, I hear you, but it's like, why can't Republicans and Democrats get along?
I'm from Canada. I cannot comment.
Oh. That is a great answer right there. So.
But I do enjoy the debates.
Good debate. That was good. Dude, you got such a good escape out of that shit.
Oh yeah, you need an escape out of that because you will lose. You will lose in a hurry. Are you scared of anything?
Am I scared?
Like, do you have fear of heights? Like, I'm claustrophobic, and it seems to be increasingly getting more as I age. You got any of those?
I think there's a lot of shit that scares me. I think the biggest fear is like just it's more of my kids. Like, my kids. Do I mean enough to my kids? Do my kids whatever? That's so. Fears. So this is my, this is a thought process. So this is a therapy session, sports psychologist process that has been a few years though. And I realized, oh shit. So if somebody ever asked me a question, I said no. If I said no, that means that triggered an internal fear in me. Like, so why do you say no? And I'm like, well, I don't like that. Why don't you like that? And then when you start digging deeper, like, so then you realize no is a fear reaction of protecting yourself from usually the not knowing, the unknown. What's the fear of the unknown and how it's going to impact something? You tell your kids, hey, can I go out tonight? No. Why not? No. So it's like, because but my fear really is that something will happen to my kid and, they get in a car accident. So it's my struggles, my fears that are causing my kid to not be able to live, to be able to live their lives the way they want to try and learn. So, obviously we try to guide them. So my motive, what I've been trying to do for the last few years now is if my first reaction is say no, as I try to pause and think about it. And typically I try to do a reverse, say yes. But then that creates this whole emotional, it's like, oh shit, what I just get myself into? What's going to happen? Because that it's our fear that it's like, okay, now the unknown. Okay. So yeah, I've pushed myself. I've jumped off ships that far beyond my comfort threshold of heights. So I've jumped out of helicopters into lakes and that I would never have done before. Anything, so just trying to push, because the more we do, the more we learn. And then what was scary now becomes not scary. And because you have a better understanding and learning of it. So yes, Dave, there's a lot of shit that scares me. But I have to take them one at a time and see what they are.
I feel like this has been therapy for me because the reason I was smiling the whole way through that is because Like around my house, they know that my initial reaction is never good. It's never good. Like it's always.
Well, that's the way. Hey, I get it.
And my wife will tell the kids, let them think about it for a few minutes. Like, and it doesn't take long. I mean, I'll say, no, you can't do that. And then 3 minutes later, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm sure you can do that. But initially, I'm like, no.
Right. So it's
to
that
everything.
Yeah. Ooh, that's. I get it. Hey, I did the same thing. Can I go downstairs? No. Why? No, because I just want to say no.
Why'd you ask me if you're not going to listen? Skeet, I've enjoyed this conversation.
Are you saying you're going to say goodbye to me?
Oh, no. I mean, you want to keep talking? We can keep talking.
No,
it amazes me how long people will listen to this. Not you, but other people will listen to this for a very long time. It's shocking.
You sure they're going to want to listen to this?
I think they will.
They haven't learned shit about fishing now.
Just so you know, this is a fishing podcast and almost never talks about fishing.
Oh, good.
It's not.
Have you ever had conversations of masturbation on your show?
Well, I did earlier when I told the Louis C.K. story. But no, not a lot of them. Is that something that's been on your mind lately?
No, I'm good. No, but I've enjoyed this. This has been good. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, so I know that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Is the whole family coming?
Dude, I have a herd coming. I have 43 guests for the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And then we have that we are staying over for a few days after and celebrating out at Table Rock Lake and
Big Cedar
and Osage and but I got 43 coming in. Sponsors, family, friends.
Cool.
Maybe that's why they're saying that's the biggest attendance they had, because I brought in a herd. Yeah.
Well, it's a cool class to go in. You, Zona, Mike McKinnis, obviously, Alfred Williams. So I think it'll be a fun night. It always is. Like afterwards, my favorite part of Hall of Fame, and this is going to shock the shit out of you, is the cocktail thing after. Because by that point, I know. I let myself out. One night a year, I let myself go wild. But it's just because now everyone's chill. Like, even when I see you the morning of or wherever we run into each other, you'll be fine, but you'll have that in your head. And then once you go through it, it's fun. I mean, I think I sat at a table with Ike and Ellie till like 3 something in the morning. He actually gave his jacket to some kid. I mean, not to keep, but there was some college kid wearing Ike and Ellie's jacket. It gets nuts.
Was that in the banquet hall of?
No, it's in the hotel.
Back at the hotel, yeah. I was gonna say, they're not going to let us stay in Bass Pro Shops that late, are they?
No, they do not. They want us out right away. Go, leave. But you've been there before. It's a fun night. It's a cool night. You're gonna look good in a blue jacket. And I want to make sure I'm there when Rick Clun puts it on you.
I might cry then.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. It really.
I am looking forward. So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of curious what the hell my plaque looks like, because some people, you look at the plaque, their picture, I'm like, well, he looks like shit in that one.
Nobody looks good. It's like you're in the Christmas.
Then someone's like, dude, that's like spot on. That's really him. And then others like, who's that?
I don't think anyone looks at it and says it's spot on when it's themselves. Like, you all look like Han Solo frozen in that stuff in Star Wars. I mean, it's just but you're going to be freaking there 20 years, 30 years, 50 years.
That's the part that is still hard to process. Like, I am literally going to be part of bass fishing history now, in how it's remembered 50 years, 100 years from now, that they're like, dude, who is this guy back here? Way back then, the guy had black and yellow and
drove a monster truck. I still
Can I tell you about my monster truck?
No, what happened?
Oh my! So I get it home, and I gotta go get a rod out of the top thing up all on top of the camper shell. So I climb up on the bumper to get a rod out of there. And I'm standing on the bumper. It goes, dong. I'm like, the hell? And then, it's a custom made stainless steel bumper, it's heavy duty. The welds broke. There's 2 plates that hold, that welded into the main bumper itself. There was like a 2-inch weld that was holding my entire bumper onto my truck. I mean, it was like the whole thing was just like oing, 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 oing. So I'm like, son of a bitch. So that was lucky. So, I got to get the bumper off. So I got to take it to a welder. So in the very top step of the bumper has like a truck liner, bed liner, brain, whatever, Line X or shit on top of it. So the guy re-welds the brackets in there. But let's take that back. So you take the bumper off. He cut the light cords and my backup camera off to get the bumper off. Then it re-welds it, and so it melts all the Line X. So I get the bumper re-welded, which will fix that. But now I got to take it to another shop to have the whole Line X redone on top of it. And then I had to take it in to get a whole new camera put in, the backup camera. And so it's like, when you give a mouse a cookie, but when a weld breaks on your bumper, it leads to all kinds of shit.
It ain't easy being Skeet. I'll just tell you what's better. I mean, you're in great shape. You blame the weld. If it happened to me, people would be like, it'd be a whole different thing. Like if you sit on a chair somewhere and the chair breaks, people are like, what a shitty chair. If it happens to me, just because the chair, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I got to honor. So we're just in Wisconsin for a General Tire team tournament. And I was coming downstairs, and Ott Defoe and Andy Montgomery were coming down. And so we're just going down the stairs talking. And Andy's like, he's just got that funny Southern humor and comedy. But he's like, he goes, no, in all seriousness, he goes, you're my hero. And he goes, you are the best looking 55-year-old fisherman out here. He goes, how do you stay in shape? How do you stay so fit? He goes, for you, be as old as you are, being doing this as long as you've been. He goes, and to be in good a shape as you are. So I was like, I turned to stop. I said, thank you, Andy. Because it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't do it for vanity. I do it for health purposes. Like, I'd like to push myself every day. But he just like, you recognize, like, it's pretty good, old man. You're pretty fit.
Andy's something else. And what blows me away about Andy is like he went for like his first 4 years and never said a word to anyone, hardly ever. And then all of a sudden, somebody was like, "It's okay to be you." And from that moment forward, he has become the most entertaining dude. And I mean, I'll watch videos of him doing work around his farm. Like I don't watch farm videos ever, but his I do.
That's all I know.
Really is. He really is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and for him and Ott, especially Edwin, because Edwin is so rigid.
Yeah, I don't get that. I get the twosome. The threesome seems weird to me.
Yeah, but then Ott's just super witty.
Yeah.
And then Andy's just funny as shit. So yeah, he's a kick to watch. Yeah, I there's not many people that I like watching the social media posts because it's like but Andy's like, this is gonna be good for a laugh here. Always, yeah.
I stop on every single one. I wish my stuff was as entertaining to you.
I don't. Yeah, mine's not. I mean, I don't. But then again, I do not spend much time on my phone doing social media scrolling, so I don't.
Yeah,
I have if you could see like the 100 Post-it notes on my desk, my computer, and stacks of paper and shit that I got to, I have more important things, I think.
It's not wrong.
Scrolling.
I mean, shit's worked out pretty good for you, Skeet. I'd say keep following the Post-it notes.
Things haven't worked out so bad for you, Dave.
Really, they haven't. I mean, because here's where I think I've succeeded.
You're the most famous Canadian I know.
Well, thank you. You don't. It's like saying you have the biggest penis in kindergarten. It really does. You don't know a lot of Canadians.
I know 3.
No, here's where I've excelled, I think. Been lucky enough. I mean, you're a great angler. I mean, I've figured out a way to do this, and I'm not even that good of an angler.
It's the beard.
It really is.
Yeah.
My wife likes it.
But you know what you have?
What do I
You've
have?
got an amazing personality. You've got a gift to talk. You got a gift for entertaining. And you have a passion for fishing. And you've been able to combine it all and create a business and a career out of your love and passion for fishing. So I'm applauding you, sir.
Thank you, Skeet. I appreciate that.
What the hell's with all those bobbleheads in the background?
Well, they're bobbleheads is what they are. I got a KVD bobblehead right there. But no Skeet. Is there a Skeet Reese bobblehead? Why don't you send me
No,
one?
I'm not that cool. I've never been cool enough to get a bobblehead. So.
Oh, wait. Wait till you see this. Not quite as big as KVD's.
Is it a penis?
No. There's a Dave Mercer bobblehead up there.
Wow.
Yeah. 10,000 of these were given out back when I worked with Subway.
I was gonna say those are the Subway days right there.
Good old days. But I'll tell you about.
Why are you green?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just the lighting.
It looks green.
I mean, I do look a little jaundice. I'll be honest. I got a bad case of jaundice in this.
Is that a brown trout?
No, it's a bass. But listen, here's what I feel bad. These were all hand painted. I didn't know that until we went somewhere and I had to sign a bunch, and I started noticing. Wait a second, they're all kind of painted different. So they're hand painted. And one day, if I go to China, I'm worried that people will come chase me down and be like, "You son of a bitch, you made me paint this." But yeah. So I got a bobblehead, Skeet. That's all I got over you.
I'm so proud of you. You freaking hit the big time, bro.
That was pre-bass. I mean, I don't know if it was connected, but you remember when Greg Hackney won Angler of the Year?
Mm-hmm.
And we were stuck in wherever we were, Escanaba or something for like 3 days. They kept canceling. And Greg was... Well, during that time, I was supposed to go to Montreal and shoot a commercial with Subway, but I stayed so I could announce Greg Hackney. And I don't know if it's connected, but later on that year, I got fired by Subway. So screw you, Greg Hackney.
It's all Greg's fault.
It really is. Most things.
Well, are most things are Greg's fault?
I mean, right now, the things we're talking about, I guess, not all things. I mean, some things. Who do you blame your things on?
No, me. It's everything's my fault.
Okay.
Most situations, yeah. No, I still blame. No, actually, I'm going to blame Bass for 2 because I'm still pissed because they gave my 2 Angler of the Year titles to Kevin.
Whoa, some unresolved issues are coming out here.
No, it's a damn postseason events we had that 2 years where I won the regular season points, and then they went to a postseason event, and then Kevin won the postseason playoffs. And then they realized that was the worst thing they ever did, and they got rid of it. So I was a sacrificial lamb for 2 years. So yes, I am still bitter that I should have 3 AOI trophies, and I only got 1.
I hear you. I mean, but you did sign up to the rules at the beginning of the season, right?
No, they changed. They
changed it.
They changed
Those
it.
Sons of bitches. I mean, you got a lot of people. You should be mad at Boyd Duckett. I mean, he stole a classic from you at the last minute.
Trust me, I am. But that was motivation. So I did get it in 2009, but that one stung because I honestly thought I had that one. That's the one I didn't think I had Red River, but yeah, like I thought I had that one. Everybody thought I had done it and I had enough weight, and then especially when I watch how
technically most unsound fish
is not
ever
good as a fisherman, but and he's got rusty shit. He can't cast. He throws a 1 ounce sinker out in the middle of the ocean, like the 2-foot waves bobbing, and he catches a 6-pounder just flailing out there 20 minutes before weigh in, and just beats me out by 6 ounces.
Yeah, that was Boyd's a classic champion.
He
Not
is.
taking anything away from him, but
if I
that
watch
is a very
somebody like,
technically unsound fish
if I
head.
watched him punch it right in the corner of a mat, slide it down, like, oh yeah, or skip a jig under a dock, or even like now it's like, all right, he just drop shot out there, yeah, perfect. That was just.
I feel the fish knew it was hooked before Boyd knew it was hooked.
But I give Boyd credit. He caught it. He put himself in a position in an area that the fish was, and
he did.
He caught the fish. He won fair and square. So, but that's when I thought I had won that one. I'm like, oh shit, I think I won, and then I didn't win.
It's wild how many people have that. Davey had that happen before he won his classic, and everybody had told him you won. You know what I mean? He's getting ready to do the lap around, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 you go on stage, and you're like, wait a second, everyone said I won backstage. And he ended up winning his classic a few years later as well. But that's one of the most horrible things that happens. I hate any event. I hate, and now it's worse because the social media is like, let's knock this video out before all the hoopla. And people are making videos, and you're just, even if you thought you didn't win, they've convinced you won, and then you go up on stage, and it's like, tong, tong, tush, and it's over.
Well, so I'll never forget. So when I won Red River, remember Pee Wee?
Yeah.
He was checking fish out at the boat ramp out at the Red River, and so he sees everybody's weight, roughly, and he's pretty damn good at judging fish. He's only handled 870,000 fish in a year for 50 years. So I had come through. So Ike had already gone through. Most guys had already gone through. Most people thought it was Ike that was going to win that one because he caught a big bag the last day. And so I go through, come in a boat check. Pee Wee checks my fish, kind of pulls them up, looks at them, and then he, I don't know, I get all emotional. So he takes his badge off. He goes, I want you to sign this. I'm like, why? He goes, I always have the winner sign it. I'm like, he knows, there's no weigh in yet, but he saw, and there was only it was 6-8 ounce difference or something. It wasn't a big difference between Ike and I, and who else? I think I forget who else was in there, but he saw that difference. Yeah, when he asked me to sign his badge and why, I was like, I signed it and did. I was an absolute train wreck from the boat ramp to the Coliseum. Like, oh my gosh, holy shit! I'm like, am I gonna win a classic? It's like, yeah, because that was pretty cool. I'll never forget that.
It's a cool moment, and it's a lot better than the other one. But you've had a lot of cool freaking moments, Skeet. You really, really done well.
I've done okay.
Yeah.
I have.
No, you've done wonderful.
It's so interesting because you think about how many tournaments you have to fish in your life. So, you look at it, doesn't all sports, all greats. It's like, yeah, just you see it. There's a post, Michael Jordan talks about how many losing seasons he had, how many losing games he had versus how many winning seasons, winning games, those things. So you realize how many events I've fished in my life, but they're highlighted, but whatever, just on tour, 11, 12 wins, whatever. Something like that. Not that many, but compared to most, outside of a handful of other guys, it's a lot.
Yeah.
How many times you got to play the game to get that one win? So there you go.
It's an evil sport that way. It really is. You look at you better be it, and I think that's why it's such a high, because the rate of success is so low.
Mm-hmm.
It's really evil.
Yeah, so that's why I think winning the Bass Pro Tour event on the James River this year, dude, that meant a lot to me because it's like to be able to win at my age, in a sport that's rapidly changing, and to have that opportunity and to be able to win on a Bass Pro Tour event, that was a monumental win for me. You get certain wins along your career that kind of like, yeah, that was the shit right there. And that's like to be, I guess, I don't know, it's like Rick winning when he's 73. It's like, you don't ever know if you're going to get another one.
Yeah.
So to actually get one is like, hell yeah, I did it again. Next, where's the next one?
Give me more of that drug.
Yeah, it is. It felt so good to, just to be real. We can go on for hours about just the mental challenges that come with being on top of a sport, the pressures and stresses from fans and media and sponsors. And so usually it's all self struggles. So, but how do you keep yourself at top of something? How do you keep yourself relevant? And because it's the fear is not being relevant and put to the side, and that's what happens to most athletes is a certain age you're not relevant and you are pushed aside and new comes in. So that's been where I'm at for a few years now. I was like, oh shit, I'm the old guy now. Yeah. So am I getting phased out? And it's like, when are they going to say no? When are you done? And so to be able to win and like all of a sudden just like keep yourself like, all right, I still got it. Yes. It feels good.
I never had a doubt. Skeet. You've always got it.
Hey, you're so sweet.
I'm serious. You're freaking Skeet Reese, bro. I don't know if you look around. Your freaking name's on everything. Just look around your office. I'm not there, but I can see right over your shoulder.
There's a lot of Skeet Reese shit. There's a lot of Skeet Reese shit there.
What is the coolest thing you're putting as part of, because when you get in the Hall of Fame, you donate a bunch of stuff to be on display. You already said the vest. Is there anything really cool that you're giving them?
My thong from the Berkeley shoot? No.
Just
kidding. No.
No. I just got so excited for a second.
Why'd you get excited about my thong?
I don't know.
No, what did I do? I did.
Why did you pick your thong?
I just threw shit out there. That's all.
Every time I give you a chance to take this show in a direction, you go filthy. You asked me if we've ever talked about masturbation. Now you're asking me about thongs.
Because I'm still a kid in my head, Dave.
Yeah, everybody is. I think that's true.
Mine just is more vocal.
Yeah.
So back to seriousness. I put my first vest in my last jersey so far. I put a couple yellow rods. I put one of my heavyweight belts in there, since I am still the only one in the world that owns 4 heavyweight belts. Nobody else has 4. So just throwing that shit out there.
Sorry.
Yeah. So just a fact. But it's like
it's 3 guys trying to chase you down. I have a
case over here. I had a custom case built that I could get 5 in there, but there was 4 in there. So it was sad to take one out and get rid of it and send it to Hall of Fame. But I sent my first one Bass Pro-Am trophy that I won. My first boat I won on a Pro-Am on the West Coast. I put some of the baits in there that I designed, a lot of signature stuff. So that kind of documenting my career from a product development standpoint, which is just as, to me, probably is meaningful from a financial standpoint as the tournament wins. So Lucky Craft stuff, because I designed Chartreuse Shad. I painted that originally. So that became the #1 knocked off color in the fishing industry. So A lot of people didn't know I designed that. So that, yeah, just some, yeah, I don't know what else. Nothing really.
I love that you've accomplished enough in your career that you can just give trophies away. Here's one of my belts. I got many. I mean, most people give a t-shirt away. Here's another one of my trophies. I'm tired of dusting these damn things.
Well, it wasn't easy. I mean, I got trophies all around and plaques, and it's like, but I wanted to send I couldn't part with my first spittoon, my first Redman win.
Okay.
So that was like, because to me, that's the first big win,
Yeah.
I think it was 18, 19 years old, something like that. And like, because that's, that was a Redman tournament back then. I mean, there was like, that was big. I won like $2,000. I remember catching a 9-pounder to win that one. But that was like, I couldn't part with that. Even though it was like, it's a whatever. I don't even know what, I can't read it. It's a long time ago. So, but there's some stuff I thought about, I got, obviously just, I don't know. It was hard it was hard to try and figure out what to put in there. So I just went through, okay, where did my career start? Where is it now? And what were things that how do I start there and finish here and dabble some shit in the middle?
Well, it's been an incredible career, and it will continue to be that's the weird thing too, to get in while you're still active. I think that's got to be weird. You know what I mean? In every other sport.
Weird as shit.
But our sport's weird that way, in the way that, like you talked about feeling phased out as you age. Well, dude, imagine that when you're 30. I think that doesn't get enough credit in other sports, because people say, well, they get paid millions, but it doesn't matter. You're 29 years old, you're 30 years old, and you can no longer play hockey, football, or baseball, whatever. And that's got to be one of the toughest things to go through. I mean, in fishing, there's no expiry date. I mean, Bill Dance, I don't even know if he's alive anymore. I think it's Weekend at Bernie's, dude. You always see somebody on either side of him.
Yeah, so
that's a horrible Bill Dance joke, but I mean, Bill's very alive and very well.
He's very much alive, and I love Bill. Like, Bill is the most successful professional angler in the history of bass fishing to this point, as far as
heck yeah
notoriety. There's no Johnny's not even as famous as Bill Dance. Johnny's worth a hell of a lot more.
I'd rather be Johnny.
Yeah. But Bill Dance is the most recognizable fisherman, period. I mean, he has branded himself beyond what tournament fishing can do. His bloopers have made him world famous. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, he's amazing. I love Bill. And he's still going strong. It's crazy. Like, he is a marketing machine.
Incredible. I mean, he started a new show a few years ago. I mean, it wasn't good enough to have his show. He's like, I'm going to start a saltwater show. Like, it's ridiculous. I have a problem with some of those bloopers, though, and I keep waiting to ask him this, because we keep talking about every time I see him, we talk about doing a podcast. But I mean, some of those bloopers, I mean, I feel it had to be turned into a bit of a factory. I feel like it's.
Well, that's what I want to know too, and I'm the same way, because he's been talking to me. He's going to have me do a show with me for 20 years, and I'm still haven't done a show with Bill. So I've always wanted to know how many of them bloopers were staged.
Had to be. I mean, some of them were real, but I don't know. Some of them.
I don't want to know. I want to know whoever scripted all that shit, because they did a great job. I mean, because Bill's not smart enough to do that himself. He's got somebody figuring it out.
Well, that's why he doesn't have you on the show, because you say things like that, Skeet. Skeet, I don't want our conversation to end, but it's got to end. But I have honestly really enjoyed this. I think we need to have you on more. Would you be willing to come on more?
If you want me, Dave.
I've always wanted you, Skeet.
Well,
I'm still standing where I've always stood, waiting for you.
Yes, I'll be back on.
Honestly, dude,
I can't wait to hear the feedback on some of this shit you get. So yeah,
I want to be good.
yeah.
You're not gonna. I'll just tell you it's good. You're not gonna look.
Hey, at least I told you.
Oh no, that is true. You and Seth Fighter are the only honest people. And Seth says, no, I don't watch, but I tell people to watch it, which I'm good with that. As long as, okay, there's our deal. You don't have to watch any of this. Just when it comes out next week, I'll send you a link. Promote the crap out of it.
And we'll tell the world that we did this and you are airing it and to go watch.
Good
for you. Because I know you're broke. Dave is not broke.
Whatever.
Dave's not broke.
I am a. Well, let's just finish this now.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Thank you. And I can't wait till next week or tomorrow. I mean, it will be by the time people watch this, but it's going to be a special time. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you, Skeet Reese. And thank you, Mike McKinnis. And thank you guys, all of you that made it to this point. This may be I'm not sure if this is officially the longest, but let's just say it's the longest show we've ever done. I mean, this is thank you guys for being part of a record-breaking show. I always say that I don't believe that you should cut a good conversation short. And this week I proved it. Thank you all. This is the point of the show where I ask you to rate, comment, subscribe, do all those things that make us YouTube and social media cool. Help us stroke the algorithm. Until next time, enjoy being, have a great week. And as always, Bob Cobb, why don't you go take it away?
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?